Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawson County Board of Commissioners 2025 budget sessions. Today is day 2 of that. Appreciate everybody that's here with us in attendance, as well as those that are with us online. We'll get started off with our tax assessor's office, Miss Elaine.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this morning for budget purposes. I'm not sure, Chairman, how you want me to go through this line by line, or do you want me to?
No, just basically your major need.
Well, the major need in our office is due to House Bill 581, which, we all anticipate that will pass. The change for that for the tax assessor's office now requires that we ensure that each parcel is revalued on a 3-year rotational basis. I wish that we had the staff that could do that, could go out in the field and do that. As you know, we've contracted with McCormick Solutions to handle the majority of our field work. Before you this morning to ask if we could increase that contract to cover the work that needs to be done to accommodate for House Bill 581. That would be an increase. I apologize, I don't have that one in front of me.
59,992.
Yes, from last year's budget. With that, we would be giving back to the county 2 vehicles of the 4 that we have, the 2 Escapes. I believe we have a 2018 Escape and a 2022 Ford Escape that we would turn in while keeping the Ford Ranger that's currently on loan to the planning department and the truck that's coming in November. And I asked that we be able to keep those 2 vehicles because of the areas that we're required to go in to look at properties. That would also be essentially freezing a position and using the money that's within the budget for that position to fund this contract amount.
And everything else in your budget is pretty well consistent.
Yes, sir. There's a decrease in vehicle repair and maintenance, but with us giving back 2 vehicles, that's understandable, and I completely agree with that. Just standard. I think there was a request to increase education, training, and travel. We're finding that the cost for education to keep our board members certified to where they're not having to go for the week-long courses and take those tests at the end, that fee increases from $100 registration fee to $500 per course per member registration fee.
Okay.
But those are the only significant things that I had requested increases in.
Questions for Elaine? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. I think the marshal's office is next, I believe. Let me get to my calendar here.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity to come before you and talk about the needs for the Marshal's office. My main request, I think originally I had submitted for 3 new employees, but now I've changed it to 2. So as y'all know, the Marshal's office has been operating with 2 code enforcement officers for 7+ years that I know of, maybe longer, but for 7 years, we've had 2 code enforcement officers in the field. Dawson County's grown by 15,000 people in the past 7 years, and we're building like crazy. We still cover 214 square miles. And, I neglected to get the projected new rooftops for 2025. Y'all could probably tell me, but I know we have a lot of planned building that's anticipated. And at the minimum, with all that planned building, the average family has at least 1 pet. I say all this because I have a great team that wants to do positive things in our community, but everyone's reaching a burnout point because there is so much going on all the time and we're being pulled in so many directions. as y'all know, through the key indicator report that I hand in every month, we always have 200 plus open and ongoing cases in the works. It is a lot for 2.5 people to stay on top of all that. And I use the term 2.5 because I'm included in that mix. I'm going to have Karen hand out a pie chart just to give you an idea of just some of the key ordinances and things that we're doing, just to let you know, just to let you begin to see the growth rate of 24 over 23. So our caseloads for animal is already tracking at a 12% great growth rate. I can't talk today, at a growth rate over 2023. Typically, towards the end of the year is when we have our biggest numbers, particularly around the holidays. So we're anticipating that's going to grow exponentially. Our 2024 code case number is tracking 10% higher, but the telltale sign, and I want y'all to pay attention to this on the chart, the biggest marker is the number of on-site visits. And I use that term on my KIR every single month, but an on-site visit means on-site. It means you're there, you're in front of people. I know that many enforcement agencies operate as one and done, but I can't stress to you enough, here is the challenge that we have with code enforcement. We don't operate with one and done because, of course, our job is to bring people into compliance. So we have to have multiple visits and talk with people and educate in order to do that. Our number of on-site visits, as you can see, is tracking at 33% higher than 2023. And I can guarantee you by the end of the year, we're going to be at 50% more than we were at 2023. And between, again, the two people, not including me, that averages to be about 35 visits per week per person, which is 7 per day. Now, if I saw that number, I would say, well, 7 per day, that's not a whole lot. But the component that people don't realize is that we spend 50% of our day documenting case notes, adding pictures, scheduling all the follow-ups, because we're always preparing for potential court, and you just have to do that in order to stay on top of your game. Karen's helping me so we can stay within our time limits. Vanna. Thank you, Vanna.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now you need to do your little, like Vanna does. So what she's just handed out to you are some case notes. And mainly what I want is not for you to read through all of this. Karen has helped me. She actually put a little, you've got 3 different cases. So this is just a standard code violation, a standard short-term rental case, and an animal case. It really doesn't matter the who or the what. My intent here is for you to notice those little stickies on the front pages. For that first code violation, you'll see 20 points of contact. Now, most of those are face-to-face, but that also includes, for the case notes, the emails, the phone calls, the follow-up, et cetera, et cetera. As you can see through this, it's pretty robust. We have to go in and put a lot of notes. There's always a lot of documentation. Same thing with the short-term rental. 21 points of contact for this one case, 27 uploaded files. And when I say a file, that's an email, that's a letter, it's a picture. It can include all of that. Of course, the last one is an animal case, 17 points of contact. Typically, on an average animal case, they're less than code, but you know, we do have a lot going on with those. So in that one, you had, 33 files uploaded. So we currently have 2 frozen code enforcement and animal control positions, and I'm requesting a new position titled Senior Code Enforcement Officer. My intent is to begin building on the current foundation with the ability to progress to higher levels of authority based on knowledge, skill, and proficiency. So this will provide incentives for people to achieve and stay in these positions for longer periods of time. So just to give you a high-level overview, I know you've gotten this, but the Senior Code Enforcement Officer would report to me. They would have to have achieved a minimum of level 1 code enforcement certification, which that's 45 hours of face-to-face learning. They would have to have advanced knowledge of all the county ordinances and and know how to quickly find information. In this role, they would be highly trained in code enforcement and very knowledgeable in animal control and how to handle animals. They would oversee and document any new people through a 25-day training for code enforcement or animal control. So they would help to ride with, I like to do it as well, but they would be doing that and documenting on a daily basis to see if the person meets the certifications. They would help with the more complex and time-consuming cases, a lot of them that I'm currently doing, and they would conduct complex field investigations. I think an important thing here is it would free me to function as the director instead of having to also train and oversee and work in the trenches on a pretty much daily basis. I could focus more on the strategic growth, advancement, improvement of the overall department as well. It would, one thing I've wanted to do, and I just can't find the bandwidth to do it, is to apply for and receive grants that can not only benefit the can't talk today, benefit the department and assist the community with things like the elderly, the homeless. And I've talked to other counties, particularly an area I'm very interested in is helping struggling homeowners, particularly older people who need help with cleanup and repair around their houses. So there's a lot of grants out there to be had. We just haven't had the time to apply for them. So do y'all have any questions for me regarding a senior code enforcement officer?
What's that? I didn't see a sheet on that. What's the total cost of that position?
I don't have my sheet either, Natalie. The total cost, so it would be
Okay.
Are you going to get it for him? You want me to
Okay.
get it? I can get it for you, Chris. I apologize. I just realized I didn't even bring that with me. Let me get. So the next thing I would like to speak about is a permit administrator. I don't know if y'all are aware of this or not, but going to our GACE conferences, and actually GABTO, I speak with people. There's always vendors there talking about short-term rentals. The county pays, many counties pay thousands of dollars to outside companies to identify and manage their short-term rental population. This past March, I met with a gentleman because I was very curious. And of course I said, well, can you give me a ballpark range of what you charge to do this? And he said, he asked me what county I lived in, and he immediately pulled up some information. He goes, I'm just going to give you just a bird's eye view, but based on what I'm seeing right now, you have 150 short-term rentals in your county. And I said, well, we actually only have about 75. He goes, well, then there's the gap. You've got a lot more that you're not, that people aren't paying for. But I said, okay, based on that, how much would it cost? He goes, well, you can't hold me to this. We're looking at approximately 35,000, maybe 40,000 in that range to do this. And what he told me was what they would do was manage them. They would find them, they would manage them, but they would not be responsible for monitoring the use or the permitting. Okay. Anna, if you would please hand out my next little chart. I wanted to just share some numbers with you.
So if they're not monitoring, what is define managing them? What does that mean?
So managing means once you've identified a short-term rental and someone permits it, we manage it we go in and make sure that they're advertising. And I'll talk a little bit about this. We have really embraced our ordinance, and Karen in particular has been a master at this, but we wanted to do it and haven't had the bandwidth. And Karen has taken the bull by the horns. So what we do is once we permit people, we also watch how they're advertising, because this is a big problem that many communities have, is that people may permit a place and they may be permitted for 6 people. But then next thing you know, you're getting complaints if there's 25 people there, or, they're having these wild parties all through the night, et cetera, which is in violation of the noise ordinance. But in order to keep these numbers where they're supposed to be and people honoring our ordinance, we look at them. As a matter of fact, I'm having a meeting with Airbnb on Monday. We monitor through Airbnb, we monitor through VRBO, just to make sure people are advertising as they're permitted. I cannot tell you how successful. You'll see that tonight in our short-term rental, but I will tell you, it has been extremely successful in the fact that in the past, because y'all know I've been in the marshal's office for 5 years, I used to be that person on the phone. I used to take those calls from April until October with people screaming at me from the lake and the mountains about these people with short-term rentals and what's the county doing about it. This year, we have had 2 complaints that were unfounded. We have had, I think we just had a noise complaint, didn't we? But and I attribute so much of it to the fact that they know we're watching. They know I applaud a business. I applaud anyone that has the entrepreneur and wants to run a business and do the right things. But again, that's why we have ordinances, so that we can be enforced, that they can be enforced. But did that answer your question, Chris? Because I could go off on a roll here.
I mean, it sounds like you're already doing these things, but you're asking for a position to do these things.
Well, we're sliding ourselves in other areas. We found how successful, but the problem is we really need a position to do that because this is a full-time job. I want you to imagine, well, I'm about to discuss it. So if you look.
So I want to ask you a question just before you
Oh,
move there.
Yes,
So you're asking for an internal position and not for us to pay this outside
correct.
source that does this on a daily basis.
That
Like
does-
that's what they do for a living, correct? I mean,
Correct.
that's where they make their money.
That's where they make their money.
So this
doing-
position would cost more than us contracting this out.
Probably not. I haven't gotten a specific quote. Again, the gentleman and I were just speaking, but I want you to keep in mind, they're doing partial of the job. A huge portion of the job is all the paperwork involved with the permitting, and I don't care how you spell it out, people sometimes miss what they're supposed to do. So that is an exercise in itself. The other thing that they don't do is they don't monitor. They don't go on they don't go on Airbnb, they don't go on VRBO. There's several of them that we do. They don't look at all that to see that
So-
people are honoring their permits. They're just finding the new people. And some of them, you can actually pay premiums to have them be the ones that, like, people can call an 800 number and then they contact the agents.
I guess this goes back to something that was asked in talking about wedding venues, but if they're not permitted, are we still receiving the hotel motel tax if they are not permitted?
No, we're not receiving their permit fees and we're not receiving the hotel tax. They have to be identified. And we send a report every month to finance showing the increase of the short-term rentals or whatever that we have. And then we log it. And then, I mean, we may be getting hotel and motel, we just don't know who it belongs to.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done through the third party, the way I understand it, if you rent through like Airbnb, then they're collecting it, and based on what your address is, we still collect it regardless.
That is,
Have a permit.
that is actually correct. I mean, that's the way I understand it as well.
We do get that.
See, those funds.
just
from
don't know where it's
Airbnb,
coming
We
from.
don't really have
Yeah.
any way of knowing
Yeah,
what
it's not line item.
properties those. are
It is a
So
huge
you just get
problem.
it like on a monthly basis, lump sum, and there's no identification on,
Right.
yeah.
like
None.
sales tax.
And actually, that is a conversation that when I meet with them on Monday, that we're going to talk about, because from my perspective, I don't understand why they can't identify the properties.
Yeah, I mean, it's like sales tax. They're probably not gonna do it.
I mean, it's a software
We're
program.
Not gonna do it.
Yeah,
So,
at least they're collecting it. They used to not do that. I mean, used to, it was up to the counties to work on, so at least they're required to collect it.
so we are doing that part. So yes, I am asking for a position that's just slightly higher than that, but we're getting so much more, and I'll get to that. If you'll notice on on the last pie chart that we just handed out, we've increased the active permits by 117% just this year alone, since April. We have identified 88 since April of 2024 for a total of 164, which is over the 76 permitted short-term rentals that we had in 2023. This has increased revenues by 26,400 year to date, and we've just added on 3 more this week. But I haven't changed my presentation. And of course, to your point, we're hopefully already getting the hotel motel taxes, but we really don't know. Because a lot of people don't necessarily rent through Airbnb and VRBO, and I don't know how, do we get checks out of curiosity from other resort managements? Okay.
Yes, if they don't use a third party, then they are to pay us directly. It's, we monitor it as best we can, but.
But if you don't know it's there, I rest my case. But anyway, so what this position is doing, this position will be responsible for identifying, reviewing, permitting, and coordinating. Well, let me back up because I wrote this in here because I think this is very, very important. Yes, these third-party companies do some of this, but the management of this is extremely cumbersome. It's very meticulous documentation and follow-up and just staying on top of it. I mean, it is very consistent, meticulous work. So again, this position will be responsible for identifying, reviewing, permitting, and coordinating continual compliance. And that's the thing, the compliance for short-term rentals. They need to be skilled at identifying and locating them. And also, because they will be permitting them, they need to be able to, they need to know our ordinance back and forward and communicate with non-permitted and permitted short-term rental owners to ensure that Dawson County standards and our ordinances are understood and being, observed. So they need to have interpersonal skills to acquire, validate, and require appropriate and mandatory actions for upholding our standards in advertising, which is what we look at as well, based on our ordinance requirements. Now, I did include alcohol in here. The permanent administrator will simultaneously be cross-trained as an employee as a assistant to the alcohol administrator for stand-in and backup purposes. They would be issuing employee pouring permits, alcohol licensing, and they need to be GCIC certified so they can work with the background checks. So a lot for this person. So I'm asking for this position so that we can continue keeping our short-term rentals in good standing. And just as a side note, we've had we had a county, I would say a couple, we've had several inquire, but we've had one county particularly that has reached out to us, and they like what we've done with our ordinance, but they've also talked to us about how we're managing on all this. And they're like, we ought to write, Dawson County needs to write the, what's the word? Someone help me here. Procedures for how people should be managing their short-term rentals. So that's all I have. Do y'all have any more questions for me regarding this request?
Questions for Angela?
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, so. Next up, we have Human Resources and Risk Management. Christy?
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, for hearing our budget needs for 2025. I am here on behalf of Human Resources and Risk Management. And our primary need that we want to address with you this year is to request an additional staff member, an admin assistant. Good communications and productive customer service are essential functions for our department. People and resources are literally in our name. And we receive multiple requests throughout the day, the hour, the week. And our department is engaged in some form of communication over 70% of the workday. answering questions and internally providing services to employee staff, coworkers, administrative leaders, as well as maintaining external communications with citizens, vendors, other municipalities, and business professionals. My staff and I routinely are moving from one encounter to another through one-on-one employee meetings such as onboarding, benefit reviews, risk paperwork, counseling sessions, to group settings such as training programs, vendor meetings, and interviews. And of course, we can't leave out the special projects, the data collection interview, planning and organization, and just day-to-day general job duties that we have to perform. Of course, we want everyone, candidates, vendors, citizens, employees, to have the individual attention that they deserve. But we cannot be everywhere at once, and we simply run out of time. There's only so many hours in the day. We are only a staff of 2 and 2 halves, as I say, 2 full-time and 2 part-time. We provide services to 27 departments, 520 plus active employees, all previous employees and/or their families, citizens and visitors to the county, other state and local government entities, as well as a large number of routine vendors. And most of our communications and/or services are provided in person to person, or in a group format. And that is primarily by in-person, telephone, through Teams, or emails. We have 6 assigned emails for our department, and we receive an average of 725 emails per week. That's roughly 150 to 180 emails that each of our staff members are looking at each week. And most of those are going to require either a response or some type of formative action. For the record, my team is extremely responsive, but we are limited by high volume requests, heavy workloads, and time restraints. Even though each staff member has their specialty, we are all cross-trained to help cover multiple functions within the department, so we all wear many hats. Somewhat confusing for other departments, though, because when they're trying to contact us, they are sometimes not sure of their immediate person to go to. So they reach out to us all, which of course creates some duplication of work along the way. So the position of administrative assistant is going to help create for us a communications hub, a single point of contact within our department, whether it be for walk-ups, telephone calls, emails, that can allow the person reaching out to have an immediate point of contact. And if the administrative assistant can't immediately answer their question, they can at least direct them in the appropriate direction and to the appropriate person to cut down on turnaround time. In addition to directing the personal communications, they're also going to be our marketing liaison, and they're going to handle our marketing platform for our job postings, which is a weekly event. And that will cover our website postings as well as all social media postings. And then, of course, they will help with organizing schedules, entering and maintaining some data tracking for departmental programs that we have going on, perform some light bookkeeping and payroll duties, and assist with a variety of other duties, which I've outlined in the job description. I'm sure all of the other departments that currently have this position can attest to how invaluable the position is. And currently, out of our 12 county departments, 9 of them have these positions. Also, almost all of our elected officials utilize these positions as well. It's not simply a position that we desire. It is greatly needed for us to successfully provide the level of service that is expected of us. But more so, it's needed because we want to provide that level of service on the forefront because we feel like it is deserving of our county departments.
I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Okay, so I spoke with Joey on, I don't know what day, last week sometime. I know that there was a position that you were another position you were going to ask for that you ended up deciding not to ask for after you and Joey spoke.
Yes,
What was that position?
that is a payroll specialist.
Okay. Who does that currently?
Primarily me. I do 75% of it, and then Erica does 25% in the way of I do all of the updates, new entries, reconciliation, and she does all of the insurance updates.
Okay. That was going to be a full-time request?
It is.
Okay, but this one is more needed at the moment.
It is because communication has been a little bit of a sore spot. When we did an informal survey last year, that was one of the topics that was at the top, was quicker response time and wanting a more one-on-one response, and also addressing the confusion within our department of who can we get to first.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to streamline us a lot better and answer a lot of upfront questions and make us feel more connected with the other departments. We definitely want to provide that for them.
Sure.
It's also going to help, I hope, cut down on some of the duplication by being the immediate, like we're going to reassign them to the HR email
Right.
where we're going to have the majority of requests go to. So I just hope that's going to free up my staff members to be more focused on some of their job duties that they get taken away from with all the email chaos.
So are either of your part-time willing to go full-time?
I haven't actually broached it with them. One of them possibly would be, the other one, I'm not sure.
Okay. I guess my question would be, I guess my concern first would be if you feel like you need both of these positions. I know that one was like you had to kind of pick, hey, which one's more of a priority right now? But my thought process was, after talking to him and then after talking to you earlier, is the potential for maybe looking at one of the part-time going full-time, so it wouldn't cost the full amount of a full-time because we're already paying them part-time.
Mhm.
They would have to get the added benefits and stuff. But then, and then looking at this additional position. So it would give you 3 full-time employees and 1 part-time, correct? Four full-time.
It would.
2,
no, it
3,
would-
4 full-time, 1 part-time if we did it that way. Right? If we made 1 full-time and then
Yes.
added this position.
Yes.
Okay. Because I guess my thing is I would rather do things right during the budget process going into the next year than to see departments coming back to us mid-year begging for something. Like, I want to be proactive in those situations instead of reactive. So I would rather do it correct going into budget. If you feel like that's your need, I'd rather look at all your needs than to go, hey, this one's recommended just because of money. And then you come to us in July and say, hey, I'm desperate for this position. And then us trying to figure out budget then. So that's why I was asking about this other position, just so that the board can hear what the true needs are of your department as a whole, and not what that you had to kind of pick between, if that makes sense.
I greatly appreciate that. The other position is just as needed. It's just, if I had to prioritize, this was the one I was going to present first, but y'all would be seeing me again before too long for me to present the other
Well, and
position.
that's my thought
Um,
process, is like, I'd rather hear it now. And us tackle this while we're doing budget than for it to be a mid-year request. And it not have been brought up during budget.
The, for the payroll specialist, adding those duties to, one of our other positions would almost have to be reclassified with our risk specialist.
Right.
Only because of scheduling. The position of personnel is a little challenging in the way that they have to be available to meet the scheduling of other departments for bringing people in. Would have to look at that and finesse that a little bit. It potentially could go with either one. We would just have to look to see which one it would accommodate more.
Okay. Or potentially making one of the part-time a full-time administrative assistant and then hiring for the payroll situation. Like, we could swap those, I guess. It's just something for the board to look at. I just wanted
Yes,
to mention
do
it because I know
appreciate
that that was a need for
Yes.
y'all.
Any way that we can help grow the department, the needs are greatly there. My staff is maxed out and just in their current roles. And that's why we're here beseeching you is because I'm very proud of them and the hours and the dedication that they put in. But they're reaching burnout, and I really don't want to lose any of my staff and have to start over in that respect. We just want to be able to grow with the county. The county has grown, the departments have grown, and because we service all of those departments, naturally our resources are having to grow, and we just want to be able to meet that need.
Thank you.
Other questions for Christie?
Did you want me to say anything to the Dawson County Health Rewards request?
Yeah, go ahead.
That is a request as you can see, the board has been so generous as to provide a 50% match for Dawson County Health Rewards this past year. It was a 50% match to what Cigna was providing in their wellness funds. Cigna is putting up 10,000. The board graciously granted us an additional 5,000 to meet that. The good and the bad of it is we are really excited to say that more and more employees are getting on board every year. And so this last year, we pretty much topped out at the 15,000 that was provided. So we did want to look at additional funding, as well as conversations I've had with our county manager. I was encouraged to look at us expanding the rewards program just a little bit in the items that we're covering, which also brought the tiered payment out to a little higher range of 225 than where it was at before. And the other option that we wanted to consider for this year was including our part-time regular employees. Even though they don't take our insurance and we may not see that full return on our premiums, having them here and healthy and being able to report to work and not be out for ailments or illness is essential for us. We can't function without them. So it's just as important that they are going, even if it's by their own means, and getting their pre-screens and their annual evaluations and participating in good, healthy conduct. So for that, we wanted to create a small scale for them. It does only allow them to go up to the 100-point tier, but it would allow them to get a $100 reward if they participated in all the available actions that's available to them. And if they're participating in that, then that means they're taking an active role in their healthcare.
You're asking for an additional 5, is that correct?
We were actually asking for it to be moved up just for future consideration to 15. But we will,
We're already doing 5, right?
you're doing 5,
And
yes.
you said here 5,000 for general wellness program. That's new, that part?
So the 5,000 for general wellness is what's historically been approved, and that helps cover just our annual programs, including our annual health fair
Okay,
and then training programs.
so basically 10 more than what we're already doing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Anything else before you talk about risk management? Okay, any other questions?
Unless y'all have any other questions on the health
Human resource
resource
side of it? All right. Anything major new in risk management other than costs going up?
Just the annual, at least 3% general cost on the annual.
The question for you on that, 2023 actual on our property and liability was 361,900. And then the note here says the first 6 months was 277, and we're looking at going to 555. Was that a 40? What's that percentage? 361 divided by 361, 900 divided by 555, 123. That's a 35% increase in our property and casualty.
Yes, that was what occurred for the 2023-2024 plan year. Unfortunately, the entire state, ACCG was hit really hard with the amount of claims that came in because of natural disasters across the state. That was anywhere from flooding to, we even had our own claim for that year. If y'all don't remember, we had, unfortunately, frozen pipes that occurred during the freeze in January. And it was in a very unfortunate area of our detention center, which was located near a electrical room. And we had over $50,000 in damages occur in just that one incident. Thankfully, our damages were minimal compared to some. A lot of claims were ranging in the 200,000 to 300,000 all the way up to $1 million for some counties. And being part of the group insurance plan, we had to share our portion of that. They do see us rebounding from that. 2024 has been a really good plan year by all accounts, but it's just going to take us time to have to rescind from that.
Obviously, I'm in that space, and obviously it would not be something that I would do, but do we ever look at that and compare? Because we do that with our health insurance, and we moved away from ACCG
Yes.
several years ago because of rate increases, and it's something that I intentionally stay away from just because I don't want any perspective of conflict of interest. But I know what happened. I know what's going on in the space, but do we take a proactive measure of ever shopping it out? Because I've never heard any conversation about that, nor have ever seen us shop that thing out with anyone.
I have looked at comparisons, and independent companies have provided comparisons.
You have done that?
I have. And I can tell you the only reason I've not presented anything for review by the board up to this point or to the county manager is simply because the others in the long run just can't meet, even if they're meeting the day-to-day primaries, they're not meeting the incentives that follow along with being in the group. We are still receiving incentive dividends back from our participation. Our last one came in, I believe, for the 2017-2018 plan year, where they roll those dividends back to us. And then with the safety discount grant that we're awarded by participating in the safety program that they have established in conjunction with LGRMS, that takes a big chunk off of it.
How much was that
And
safety grant? 50,000?
the safety grant is only 6,000. The
Okay.
safety discount, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I can
I'd
get
like
that
to
for
get
you.
more info. I think we need to take a more serious look at that. I mean, if you look from 2012, we are doubling what our expenses are, and it's something that, again, I'm very cautious about not stepping too deep into this space, but we need to be proactive with that. And it sounds like you are, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
share that information with the whole board so we can be on, help be a part of that decision.
Yeah,
process.
absolutely. Yeah, it's just when it comes down to, even if they're beating ACCG a little bit in premiums, it's the quality of of services that you're getting to back that up. And ACCG has just developed their platform to provide so many services that expand beyond some of the individual companies that it's hard to touch them. But we can certainly look at numbers.
I have a different perspective, but again, I will reserve my comments.
Okay.
Other questions in reference to risk management? Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to finance. Miss Vicky.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present my budget request. For the last almost 9 years, I've never asked the board for anything. So, and every year before I present a budget or put my budget together, I ask my staff, what's your workload like? Is it too much? Has it increased to where you go home at night stressed out? And I think we have reached that point in one area. My only major request for this year is we're requesting a part-time person to help out with the ambulance, ambulance billing. I think my staff is phenomenal, and I want to thank them for all that they do, because the county has grown so much. And as every department grows, our workload grows, and they have absorbed that work and not complained. And I just want to thank them because I think they're great. So the increase that I'm asking for in the salaries would be $35,817 to add a part-time person to help out with the ambulance billing. Since 2014, our ambulance calls have gone from 2,487 to 3,975 in 23, and that is a 61% increase. So I think it's gotten to the point that we do need some additional help in that area. Lori, who has been doing 2 jobs, she's been doing the ambulance billing, accounting, and the grant accounting. She really would like to branch out and do more in the way of helping the departments look for grants. And so that would free her up to be able to do that. So other than that, my only request in the finance side is to increase the budget a little bit for the audit. Their fees going up this year, so. And I have one more thing it's not really a budget request, but it's something I want you all to think about. The county manager and I have talked, currently his ability to, I guess, amend contracts or make changes or do something without the board's approval is 50,000. And with T-Splosh coming on board, we feel like it probably needs to jump up to 100,000. That would give him more flexibility. He would be able to make decisions quicker. It's just something I'd like for you all to think about, and Mr. Leverett and I have discussed that. So just something for you all to think about. Do you have any questions for us or for me?
Questions for Miss Vicky? No, ma'am, you're doing a
Okay.
good job.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, let's see here. I think the Humane Society is next, I believe. Yep, Jason? Hold on, bud.
Just to introduce myself, I'm Ron Moulds. I'm on the board of directors of the Humane Society, and I'm here in support of Jason and maybe give you a couple of reasons why we need your help. Jason Hutchinson is our executive director of the Humane Society, and we have Jacinda Seaton, who is the director of operations for the Humane Society, the shelter. As you know, the county has grown quite a bit. We're experiencing a lot of pressure with more and more animals coming in, more and more animals to contend with. That puts pressure on us to upgrade our existing shelter as much as we can, but we're limited space-wise there. So we have a program that we're beginning the fundraising activities for to build a new shelter. But of course, it's a lot of money. Just the first phase of it's going to be about $1 million. And that covers our ability to bring in animals, separate them from other animals that we already have at the facility so that we don't transfer diseases. That can be a real bad thing at an animal shelter, as you can imagine. We have had, like most businesses, most everybody that's out in the world right now is experiencing cost increases. Our labor pressures at the shelter have gone up considerably. It's especially important that we hang on to our people at the animal shelter. It's not the most glamorous job in the world, but it's a very necessary job if you're going to take care of the animals, do a good job for them. And we've had to increase our pay, and we've gone to great efforts to continually staff our facility there, but we do have more turnover than we'd like to have, and it's just the nature of the animal shelter. We have seen donations and grants kind of drop off a little bit with the economy being what it has been recently, and one of the reasons we're asking for the increase that we're asking for is because revenues and expenses are getting very close together to the point where we want to be sure that we're able to continue with our expense level going forward and taking care of the animals. We have an architectural firm that is looking at expanding our current shelter, adding to it the first phase of it would be our intake, which is critical for the health of our animals. And also, we're adding a bunch of kennels, which will enable us to handle more animals. And the number of animals, and for some reason, the size of the animals has dramatically increased. We're getting huge dogs and so forth instead of the typical size animals that we've recently had. We're committed to being a no-kill shelter, so we take them all in, try to find them homes, try to take care of them for as long as we need to in order so that they have a decent life. We have an immediate need for our floors to be taken care of. We have a state ag exam, which the floors are one of the critical things that they're looking at that we need to take care of. With that, the details of what we need to do, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jason Hutcherson. He can give you details, and we'll try to answer any questions that you have. Very much appreciate the opportunity to talk to you folks.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. First off, I wanted to thank you guys for everything that you've done for us in the past. I know it's a little bit of a unique situation where we don't necessarily fall under the county umbrella, but we are proud to be part of the county family. The Marshal's office has been fantastic to work with as well. Day in and day out, they show up for us, and we can't express our gratitude enough for that. As Ron mentioned, with inflation going up, our operational costs have increased. Our budget looks like it's going to be in the 850,000 for 2025. We're respectfully asking for a 20% increase from you guys, which would put it about 25% of our operating budget. Payroll being the biggest. As you may have heard, our shelter is full. We've been consistently full for probably a year now. I've been there for 10 years. We've always seen kind of a flux. We'll be packed for a little bit and then we'll have some breathing room, but it has just been consistently at the top for several months now, putting stress on the staff, putting stress on the building. Everybody knows the county is growing. I'm sure you guys hear that from everybody, but in addition to humans moving into the county, animals are moving into the county, which is increasing the number of strays as well. We have already this year through August taken in more through animal control and public strays than we did all of last year. And if we continue the pace the next 4 months, it'll be the most combined animal control and public strays that we've taken in the 10 years that I've been there. The shelter is 16 years old. When it was designed, it was not designed for this kind of growth and capacity. That's the biggest reason that we're looking into the expansion. Phase one would be the intake. I don't know if any of you guys have been to our shelter. Our intake area, there are 5 large dog kennels and about 10 small to medium dog kennels. And we're averaging 50 to 60 dogs a month. And everything that we have gotten here recently are Rottweilers, Great Danes, Great Pyrenees, German Shepherds. They're huge. So we're having to get creative and trying to house these guys when they come in. We also got 2 Presso Canarios. I forgot those guys. So the importance of the new intake area is going to be huge for us. We're looking at expanding to about 30 to 40 new dog kennels so that they can decent size dog kennels that can accommodate large animals that are coming in. As Ron mentioned, this project, it's about 2,800 square feet is what we're looking at. It's going to be right at $1 million. Our goal is to fundraise and try to raise half of that money and then probably take a loan out for the other half. So one of the reasons for the proposed increase that we're asking for could be used to offset that loan payment that we would have. If we don't get that far, then obviously the operational costs is what we'd be looking for to offset that. With the increased animals, again, I mentioned the stress on the staff. We are trying to increase the number of staff as well to take some of the pressure off of the guys that we have because we're just wearing them into the ground. As Ron mentioned, it is not a glamorous job, as you can imagine. Compassion fatigue, I don't know if you've heard the phrase or not, it is real. The average lifespan of animal support teams is about 2 to 3 years, and then they burn out. It's a highly physical, emotional, and mental stressing job, just day in and day out. I can't say enough about Jacinda and the staff that we have. They put their hearts into it every day, and I'm so proud of them. Vet care, if you have pets, I'm sure you're well aware of the rising vet care costs, animal food costs, everything has gone sky high. Again, increasing our operational struggle, and we're all struggling in that together. Ron mentioned the floors. We came to you guys 5 or 6 years ago, asked for an increase in the budget, being the priority was redoing the kennel floors, which we did. They told us it would have about a 5-year lifespan. Surprise, the kennel floors are starting to peel and wear, so we're looking at redoing that, hopefully by the end of the year. One, it needs to be done, and of course, this Department of Agriculture is going to require us to get that fixed as soon as possible too, so that's an extra incentive for us to get that ball rolling. The initial quote that we've got for the floors and some of the walls as well need to be painting is about 40,000 is what we're going to be looking at. Again, we're working on, we've established and grown our fundraising committee over the last few months. We've done a big mail out. Hopefully you guys saw that in your mailboxes, trying to garner consistent donations from the general public to help us meet those operational costs and for the growth in the intake project that we're working on. Our goal, of course, is to remain no kill. Our goal is to have a shelter that not only that we're proud of, but the county and the state and the surrounding areas are proud of. We want to garner that respect and everybody feel good when they hear the Dawson County Humane Society name. We were recognized by the Best Friends Animal Society as best in class for our no-kill work. Additional projects that we're working on is our spay and neuter program. We currently have a no-cost spay and neuter program for members of the military and members of DFACs. There is absolutely no cost to them to get their pets spayed and neutered, vaccinated, heartworm tested, the whole 9 yards. We're looking to try to gain some grant money to grow that so that we can widen the net a little bit to help reduce the number of stray animals in the county. And then we're also committed to the resale shop, and the volunteers there are super passionate about what they do. They're great supporters of the shelter and our mission to take in as many as we can, to give them the best care that we can, and to find them the best homes that we can. So much thanks to those ladies over there. And I think that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Questions for Jason?
Couple of questions. Do we have an intergovernmental agreement with other counties? Like if you get the capacity, you can send animals to other counties and vice versa?
As far as us, or?
Yes.
No.
Did Lumpkin just build a large, didn't they just build a large facility?
Last time I was there, it was, I think they have about 20.
Maybe not. Okay.
20 kennels.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, I didn't know how that worked.
And we have in the past just unofficially partnered, like we have pulled some cats or some dogs from different counties if we had the room and they were overflowing.
Right.
But we don't have no official contracts.
Nothing. Okay. What is the arrangement now? It seemed like we went back and forth for a few years with the city and their animals. I mean, you guys are obviously pulling those in, and are you getting
So if-
funding from the city for that?
No funding from the city. If they obtain an animal, I think they give it 24 to 48 hours. If nobody comes forward claiming it, they contact the marshal's office, and then the marshal's animal control goes and picks them up and brings them to us.
Okay.
We're looking at probably 15 to 20 a year. It hasn't been. There's
15
not
to 20 a year within the footprint of the city?
Mhm. Correct.
And what's the total animal count that we deal with on an annual basis for the county?
For animal control, we're at 337 through August. And then we've taken an additional 179 from the public, bringing in strays off the street.
Public bringing this, okay.
So we're at 516.
516, okay. 337 from our operations and then, okay.
Correct.
CRS city thing is in the SDS. I think that's
Yeah,
part of our
there was
sheriff's
something,
budget.
yeah, there was an agreement in that somewhere.
That's where that comes in.
Good.
Other questions for Jason? Y'all are doing a good job.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, we'll take about a 10-minute break and then we'll be ready for the sheriff in just a few minutes. here. You good? All right. All right, Sheriff, you are up.
Good morning, board. I'll say compared to years past, if we're late for lunch today, it'll be your fault.
All right, we'll hold you to that.
The Commissioner Gaines and I have had the chance to meet already, but I wanted to tell you, I literally board on line items. I just have nothing to ask you in addition for the recommended numbers. Thanks to Ms. Sandra, Ms. Natalie, and Ms. Vicky. We feel like we can work and operate within those numbers. So unless the board may have a question about the line items, I'll be glad to answer.
All right, move on.
And so the next thing, there is something I need to make a change on personnel request.
Mhm.
If you will strike that GCIC supervisor, that's not a position that we're asking for. We already have someone that's kind of taking that position.
Okay.
So our big needs this year, obviously are staffing. As I've shared with the board, the academy has changed their hours. They've basically doubled it, which means we're going to have, right now we were typically sending about one recruit to each academy session. This will give us
How many do they have a year? Two?
No, sir, there's several.
Several?
Right.
Okay. They're still in Athens?
I'm sorry?
Still in Athens?
No, we're sending Pickens County
Pickens
now.
County now?
Right. They've got some regional academies.
Oh, okay.
But this doubling it like they are is truly going to put a pressure on all agencies. So it's our request that we could get 2 detention officers designated for this, and we would keep them into the academy. And as you know, these positions help feed our patrol and when we have openings, things of that nature.
How many openings do you have now? I mean, I know you've had trouble with that one.
Right.
Keeping those full to begin with. How many do you have currently?
10 total.
How many in
across
detention,
those.
Okay, good. That's better than it was.
Yes, sir.
You were at 6, I think, the last time I talked to you.
It may have been.
Yeah.
We fluctuate. And as you know, the detention center is kind of the proving ground, you know. They're going to make it, and some don't. But any questions over the detention officer request? Next is the GCIC, and I know we've talked about this for several years. As our 911 center is starting to come to fruition, we know that we have to keep GCIC within the sheriff's office. So basically what this would do, board, right now our 911 operators are doing a majority of our GCIC work. You keep maintaining that within the sheriff's office would require some additional bodies. So what we're asking for is 4 GCIC techs and a senior tech. This would also give us 24-hour coverage at our sheriff's office front window. So most agencies already have that. It's right now, if you come in, you need help, you have to push a button. We have to wait for detention to free themselves up to come up and help. So this would help us, but it would also handle all of our GCIC duties. It would take that off of our 911 operators. We know that we have some 911 needs there as well. We do believe that this will help offset their duties and responsibilities. So should we be able to fill this GCIC positions, that'll give us time to evaluate what our 911 needs are as well. But any questions I could answer for you about the GCIC positions?
Question?
What's the lady that sits down there in front now? Is she doing this already?
Records. Those are our records
Records.
ladies, right?
She's not doing this.
No, sir. No, sir.
But you would move her if you had this.
I'm sorry, sir.
You would move her if you had this. I mean, you said that you'd want somebody up front that's doing the GCIC stuff.
Well, and basically when they were not there, the GCIC person would
just
probably be at the same desk or in the same area to catch
Okay.
walk-in traffic. And that would give us 24/7.
Up front. We give you 24/7 up front.
Correct, right.
The lady that's there now, she's doing records. She's just there during the day. So the GCIC would be a night person, night shift.
Yes, and weekends. So they would be actually 24 hours a day. Our records ladies still, you know, they're swamped with their records. So this would just be handling strictly GCIC duties and responsibilities. And we know that we may still be a year and a few months out from seeing the 911 center come out. So this is something too that the board we could implement this over the year. It would give us time to recruit and hire. Typically, we have good applicants turn out for positions such as this. So give us time to advertise, time to interview, and time to get them in position, get them trained. So we wouldn't necessarily need all of them, come January 1.
Other questions for the sheriff?
I have some budget line items. Do you want me to address those or you want me to wait? Okay. Okay, so on the salary for the holiday pay requested annually,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Have you guys requested this before or is this the first you have? Have we approved it before? No? Okay, thanks. And then on the salary overtime, you guys always have to work. I mean, it's part of the sheriff's responsibility. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm asking, I'm not saying. The moonshine and Christmas parade.
Correct.
Okay, and you're not paid. So like the moonshine, it's not, so I know that some of your patrolmen will do like additional stuff for extra money, like work some of the churches and stuff like that. They get paid on their own by that venue.
Yes, if a private entity wants their own security, yes.
Yes.
ma'am. But
So like Care for Kids does not pay you guys for Moonshine Festival?
there may be a traffic or 2 point that they do. So
Okay,
let me get back with you on that.
okay.
So,
I mean, I'm not against, personally, Alexa is not against, the increase. I think I see the need, but I just want to make sure because I used to volunteer for Care for Kids and was over all of the shopping. And I thought that there was a budget in Care for Kids that does go towards law enforcement during the Moonshine Festival, but I could be wrong or that could have changed. It's been a while since I've been there. So yeah, will you check on that for
I
me?
will.
Okay. And then the Christmas parade, who puts that on? I don't know.
I think it's just city.
City usually does.
Chamber, I thought put it on. Did they pay y'all?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Will you just check on those two
I
things for
will,
me?
I
Okay.
will. And you're right, Commissioner. It's obviously, we have to plug every hole that's out there, every
Sure.
potential traffic hole. So they are labor intensive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I again, and I mean, I appreciate you guys being there. I just wanted to clarify some of that so that, again, I'm not fully against increasing that. I just, want to make sure, hey, if there is pay being there, maybe we can adjust that some so that we can, like you said, providing for the community, but also so that the community can come together and pay that. If the chamber could provide something, or if Care for Kids is providing something, that could offset some of what we can provide.
Right. And I'll be
so-
glad to get that to you.
Okay,
And one thing too that you may not know, I mean, anytime the polls are open, we have to staff that. So we have to bring in people to provide security for that. We live in a different day and time, and we try to big events that we know we're going to have a lot of public at, things of that nature. We try to make provisions to cover that. I just believe it would be unwise if we didn't, throw some security at these places. So our world's ever changing.
we appreciate y'all being there.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Just for a frame of reference for the overtime, this year they're currently at $179,000 budget and they have spent $174,000 in overtime. So I think the amount that's in there is reasonable for next year.
Adjusted for that, yeah. Okay. What else you got for us?
Well, and the only thing, as we forecast and we look down the road, obviously our 911 personnel, filling GCIC will give us time to evaluate, but they've expressed their need and I certainly concur with them that they do have needs, but that'll give us a little bit of time to evaluate. But that'd be something that we look at in the future. And deputies and investigators, call volumes continue to rise, needs continue to rise, and our, as I say, our little county has changed a lot. All of our developments and all put a greater strain of resource on us, and I mean, this. Vehicles is something that we're probably going to have to look at. We do have allocations in SPLOST. But our fleet continues to grow, our fleet continues to age, and right now I think we're averaging 4 to 5 a year is what we're allocated, and I don't know we'll probably be coming to you and ask for cars in the next cycle or two, once we exhaust the other. And range is a big thing. We know that, at some point in time, I mean, we really have a need now. We're having to use the Riverbend Gun Club. We're having to use Hall County's range and Pickens County's range to facilitate our training. Had an incident just recently where our trainers took some folks out at Riverbend, and according to our trainer, every range was full. They had to turn around and bring these guys back and take them at a later time to train. That's just not real cost effective for us. And
Actually, sorry to interrupt. I've been talking to Jake and Ray
right.
about the range and had asked Jake to get me some information on what like you guys currently spend at the different ranges, how often you're there, all of the citizen stuff that you guys do with the range that also goes into our community where what's it called that y'all do? Like where you
Citizens Range Days.
yeah, I guess that would make sense. So he has sent me an email that I was actually, just so that you know, he just sent it recently. So I was going to forward it to the board so that they can see all of that, to see the bigger need of a range. Because that is something we've been discussing. So I just want to let you know, I didn't let that fall to the wayside. I just have not fully moved it on yet.
No, understood. It's just something that I wanted to make sure that I bring back up to the board because it is a need. And the only other thing I would ask the board, and I know that I've had some written communication with you regarding our, and first let me thank you. I do know that our COLAs and our merit and our longevities are working. We're not seeing the turnover that we had. We have lost some, we've separated with some for cause, but you know, that's going to, no matter what we pay.
Part of the game.
That's going to be part of it, right? But we have truly minimized it. We've reduced it. And so what you're doing is working, and I certainly appreciate that. And what I'd ask the board for, you know, is to consider a notable COLA as well as continuing the merit longevity. But I would ask the board to consider this too, and I would be glad to get you any of the information that you need, any comparisons and so forth. Learned just within the last few weeks that, you know, we've always been competitive with our mountain neighbors. We've always kind of set the lead with Pickens and Gilmer and Lumpkin and so forth. Well, that tide has changed now. Forsyth's continuing to separate from us in pay, but now Pickens County is outpaying us. You know, they're being progressive. They're trying to recruit too. They're trying to get the best in their door as well as we are. But I would ask the board to consider not just these others, not just the COLA and the merit and longevity, but an additional increase to help us get folks in the door. I like to say, what you're doing is working. It's making a difference. We're experiencing some of the best retention that I can recall here. Getting people indoors is a little bit different. Dawson County is a great place to work. Y'all know that. We have a lot of success getting folks in, getting them to the academy. Those are the ones that we typically tend to keep because they come up in our system. So that's why it's another reason it's important that we have detention applicants in here, that we're able to get people into the academy. But one of the problems we have is the pay, and we've had some specialized positions that we just can't get filled. We've got quality people on the outside that are interested. When we tell them what our max is, unfortunately, it shuts the door on us. So I would ask the board to consider that. And again, I would be glad to provide you any comparisons that you may need or that you want to look at. So
We'll take whatever you want to give us as
Perfect.
far as information.
yes, sir. That's all I have.
Questions for the sheriff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, Robert's up next, I think. Oh, Jennifer. Jennifer, come on up.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak to you once again. Basically, the only request that we have again this year is just that one position that I'm asking for requesting. which we had requested, last year and the year before, but we had not been able to get that position in place. So that's the only thing. This is a position that we've seen an increase in our caseload with estates and guardianships. And of course, with our county being, a community that people want to move to retire, and with all the assisted livings that we're seeing being built here, we're seeing an increase. Reiterating what the coroner had said about, the more deaths that we're seeing here in the county due to people moving to our community and retiring here and unfortunately passing here. So I believe that's where the increase is with the estates, and with the guardianships, the adult guardianships would be regarding the same manner, because they move here, come to an assisted living, and in the meantime are in need of an adult guardianship. So as far as minor guardianships, also just unfortunately seeing more grandparents and family members raising their children in the time that we're living in. And there's been an increase with our estates. Looking at the caseload, we've had about a 60% increase in estates. And currently the position that the clerk who handles estates and guardianships combined, this would be a position where we would be able to free her to have more time with estates, and let another position be able to take over the guardianship role in handling those. With each adult guardianship that's filed in, it usually takes from start to finish, just an estimate. Our estates, some of them stay open, but as far as guardianships and adult guardianships, there's a whole process that takes place. It's usually about a 45-day process for one guardianship. So that particular clerk is working to schedule appointments for evaluations and scheduling appointments to get a court-appointed attorney, and preparing all the orders that we are on a time frame by law that we have to meet. Unfortunately, with those type situations, there are particular timeframes that are set out by code that we have to meet. So that becomes difficult with the increase that we're seeing in that. So that position would certainly help with that. And of course, all of my clerks are cross-trained, and would be, currently we have a part-time position that is working the window to, marriage license, firearms license, that kind of thing, part of the day, but she leaves in the afternoon, and whoever is handling estates or guardianships or marriages or firearms or traffic has to come up and leave what they're in the middle of doing to answer the window. So it's just something that is really a desperate need. And I know, to a few of you, I guess, in the middle of last year, the end of last year, in regards to this. And so I'm just hoping that you all will be able to see the need for this. And I think basically that's the only thing that we're asking for, is this one position. Do y'all have any questions?
Questions for Jennifer?
How hard do you think it'll be to find somebody for that position?
It is a position that, as a matter of fact, my clerk who handles that and I were just talking before I left the office. As far as training someone in this position, I want that position to be someone that has a level of knowing more of the legal system. And I really don't feel that it's going to be that hard to really find somebody, because I know there are people out there, that have worked for attorneys or are, looking for some different opportunities. So as far as that goes, I feel like we could fill the position, and it is a trainable position, but it's trainable in a day-to-day hands-on position, because every situation with every family is different. It's not the same every day. So I mean, I've been doing this 30-something years and I learn something new every day because you have a different situation with every family member. When someone passes, that it's different. It's never the same. As far as the routine paperwork with filing in an estate or a guardianship, all of that, of course, is the same. But every scenario with each death or family member is different. So it's just something that you have to learn on a day-to-day basis. And I really would hope that that wouldn't be a great problem in trying to find someone.
Other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Robert. Public Works. Yeah, slow.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I know everybody says that, but I really just want to make sure you heard me say it. Whether you know it or not, there are a lot of communities that don't do this, where the department heads don't get to stand up and make a presentation. So thank you for allowing me to do that. I've got a lot to talk about, and I'm going to go through a PowerPoint presentation, and I've made myself some notes to kind of help me guide me a little bit, make sure I say everything I want to say. Oh, thank you.
He's early.
I got an hour and a half.
Good.
Okay, some of us eat at 11.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're,
I lost my train of thought now.
you messed him up.
I will tell you this too, that I now have at least a year under my belt for budget here. So I've learned a lot in the last year. My presentation last year was kind of off the cuff because I didn't know a whole lot about the budget in the department. So I'm in a better position this year to be a little cleaner, be a little bit more concise of what I'm asking for. I will tell you this as well. I'm from old school. If you don't ask, you're not going to get it. So I'm going to throw a lot out at you guys. You have the privilege to determine whether or not it's a need or a want. So I respect that. But I am going to ask for a lot. So I just want to go through those individually. First thing I want to remind you of Public Works. Am I speaking too loud? I feel like I'm echoing.
You're okay.
Public Works is really three budgets. It's administration, it's roads, and it's what I call waste services, the old transfer station. Now that we have recycling and it's a big part of the budget, I'm referring to it as waste services. What I'm going to talk to you about is a couple programs, and this is just a brief summary. I'm going to discuss a staff incentive program. It's a development incentive program for staff. I am going to discuss a roadside landscaping maintenance service. And because of that, I'm going to give you an alternate to the roadside landscape maintenance services. And then I'll go in my capital improvements. And there's quite a few of those that I want to talk about as well. And that's the lineup of those. So let me first talk about, went too far, the staff incentive program. We're seeing a lot of turnover in entry-level employees. I think we've been through 7 or 8 this year, and that's really quite unacceptable. So we're bringing them in. We're just having a hard time retaining them. And they're coming in with very limited experience, very limited skills. So we're asking them to come in, work safely. We're asking them to gain some skills while they're here. We're asking them to understand what they do. And that's hard on a new employee who doesn't have a whole lot. So to get them to where they need to be, I'm looking at an incentive. I really want to reward them, the employees. We have a great staff. I know many of the department heads come up and tell you that. You know, Public Works, we work very hard. They work very hard. And they're very successful at what they do. And I'm very proud of my staff. but I need to retain them. We need to be competitive and retain those employees. So I have created this staff development incentive program. And the goal is to provide an incentive, full-time and part-time staff, that promotes the education, promotes safety, and promotes personal development. The program is basically an outline of different training opportunities and certifications that's available to the employees. If they obtain that certification or they go to that training class, they should be rewarded for that. And that'll help retain particularly the entry level, but all the employees. This is the program. I realize you probably can't see this. I'm really not asking you to detail this at this point. But it's a real simple program. And I've listed up on the left column all the different certifications and opportunities and training classes available to the employee. Column number 2 is the administrative and management staff. And then column number 3, the last column on the right, is for the operators and transfer station attendants. Administration and operations, they obtain at least 4 of these opportunities, training, classes, certifications. We're looking at a 5% increase in their salary. Equipment operator and the attendants, we're asking them to obtain at least 3 of these at their choice, including a mandatory flagger certification, a flagger certification. So they obtain those, they get a 5% increase, and they have to show proof of obtaining those. The bottom of the sheet is also an incentive for those who do have and do go get a CDL, which is also very valuable to us. And it does open up the door for promotions. And we also are asking if they're interested, which has not been done before here that I know of, but a pesticide, Georgia pesticide herbicide applicator license is also valuable for us because we're doing a lot more maintenance on roadsides. It'd be nice to have, particularly as we spray herbicides. So that's the incentive program in a nutshell. The budget impact is just an estimate. For the administrative staff, we're looking at up to $13,600. For roads, the budget impact is a little over $49,000, and that's assuming all the employees meet this. And then the waste services, the budget impact is about $14,400, with a total impact of the budget of a little over $77,000. Again, you know, the goal of this is is not only bring an employee in, but also to retain them. So is there any questions about that before I move on?
How long do you feel like it would take for the average employee to meet these certifications to get that bump? So you've got, I think, 4 on the administration, minimum of 4 training certificates, and then on the operator attendance, minimum of 3. What do you think the average timeline would that be?
It's a good question. Some of the employees have done this and some of them done it recently. So they could be fairly quickly, as in the early in next year. Entry level, it'll probably take them a year.
Doesn't APWA though take a couple of years to obtain certain certifications because there's they only offer 2 conferences a year. I think one in the summer, one in the early winter. So in order to fully obtain that, it would take 2 years because I think you have to go through 4 of those training sessions to graduate from APWA.
Correct. Correct.
That's the only one I know about.
It's a very good program. I've been through it. I was actually the 2nd graduating class of that program.
Okay, very cool. I went through
Proud to
half
say.
of it. I didn't get to finish it, but I did go through the first 2.
I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was.
It's from just a logistics and implementation. I know when we rolled this out with the fire department, it took somebody dedicated to manage the process. You've already identified whose responsibility that would fall on, and
It would be me.
You're not asking.
It would
for
be
another-
me. It'd be just record keeping and clear organization, but it would be me. And again, they'd have to provide me proof, certification or attendance or whatever.
A lot of this stuff too, let me just speak to that a little bit. I feel like a lot of this stuff too, kind of it manages itself. So the APWA is through Carl Vinson. So you can track it just like they do our stuff. So he would just have to log in and track some of that stuff. Flagger certification, same. I don't know if y'all do it in-house anymore, but y'all do it in-house?
We bring in a trainer.
Yeah, so they are actually the ones who record keep it. We would just have to call and say, hey, can we get your record on these people? So that would make his job a little bit easier on some of this stuff, at least from how it was when I was there.
You're exactly correct. And some of these, like through LTAP, which is the Georgia DOT sponsor, it's a federal program sponsored through the DOT. They're free. It was just a matter of getting the employee to that program.
Is there a big expense on the APWA training?
There is, it's travel and overnight hotel stays. So yes, there is an expense to that. And one or two have already gone through it. But I do need to put a couple more. It's going to take time. You're absolutely correct. And I have one in the middle of it right now.
They're literally just like our commission. They're like Savannah, Jekyll, I think is one, Athens. During COVID, they did we saved a lot because it was done remote, but that's the only time they allowed it remotely. They don't typically allow those big sessions to be remote. I know they did during COVID, but so it's very similar to what we do in Athens and Savannah.
To give credibility to that program, it was created and organized by Mr. McBride.
Yeah.
Walt McBride, yeah. Wow, his father is a pastor, and he was my pastor, as a matter of fact, for years, Claude. But yeah, Walt is the creator of that program, and he's got a lot of national recognition for that program. Any questions before I move on? Okay, the next program I want to talk about is the Roundabout and Gateway Maintenance Program. Just a little background. Currently, Public Works Department is overseeing the maintenance of 4 roundabouts and 2 landscape gateway areas on Highway 400, State Route 400. One of those in front of Meagle, and the other one is from Applebee's. And we maintain them by contract. We have a local contractor keeping up with those. We've had some ups and downs with that program, but that contract, I understand, expires this year. So I'm coming to you because we're gonna have to make a decision for 2025. Do we contract again, or do we perform that service in-house? So here's just a little outline of those areas. As I mentioned, we got the 2 gateway areas. We've got 4 roundabouts that we already have. We're gaining 3 more. We're gaining the 2 roundabouts at State Route 9 and Dawson Forest. We actually should have those by now, but they haven't been into the program. So they're going to have to be. DOT's made it very clear to us. It's our turn to start picking up that maintenance. We already have an MOA with the DOT. And a 3rd roundabout is the State Route 53 at Dawson Forest. The new roundabout we just built, the DOT said they're going to be submitting an MOA for us to maintain that as well. So we're gaining 3 more roundabouts. And what I'm going to propose to you is picking up State Route 400 as well, the corridor of State Route 400. This is a map of those areas. I hope you can see that map, but in the lower right corner, you do see the corridor of State Route 400. Just to throw in a little bit of my opinion, I believe the county has an obligation to provide more than what's being done out there by the state. You know that, you see it, you drive through it. I think we have an obligation to all those investments out there to give them aesthetics, give them a better look when citizens are driving through the county. I just feel that way. I've heard my wife say that driving through there, that it's not very attractive. DOT does what they can, but I want to look to see if we can supplement what the DOT already provides. So that's my goal here. If I can read that goal statement. Provide supplemental maintenance to improve the general appearance along State Route 400 and take over maintenance and appearance of those 7 roundabouts I've already brought up. That is the goal. And that's why I'm standing in front of you now. And that's just a better view of what I believe to be the corridor. Obviously, it's the 400 route between Lee Castleberry Road up to the Harmony Church, and that includes roadsides and medians. Lumpkin Campground Road, that corridor, I think needs a little bit more attention. And then down State Route 53 to the new roundabout at Dawson Forest, capturing that area, including the Beartooth Parkway in that area. I just think it needs more than what it's been able to get. And right now, I don't have the resources to go out there and grab that on a more frequent basis.
When you say maintain it, do you mean just maintaining like what's there? So trimming back, like brush, cutting grass?
I've got a slide for that.
Oh, okay, I'm
go
sorry.
that-
Sorry.
I probably should have put that next, but I didn't. These are just pictures. I'm gonna quickly go through these. These are just pictures of what you see is what you get or what you're getting. You drive it, you know that what it looks like. And of course, DOT just went out there a week ago. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but they just went through and did some maintenance and it looks good. And they do also spray. They spray behind what they did last week. So there's just pictures of what.
DOT is doing that through a contract as well, right?
Correct. They are.
Everything's contracted from them.
That is correct.
Okay, but I agree with you. It definitely needs to look better. And Joy and I have had this conversation too about, I even want to bring to the board at some point in time a little bit more beautification to that area than just cutting the grass.
I
Where
would
we
love
put
that. That was why.
bushes and flowers. And I know at some point in time, we're going to have a meeting with GDOT. And I'd ask county manager to include me in that so that maybe we could have some form of a, IGA or whatever.
Correct.
With the state in reference to doing that, and maybe even some public-private partnerships with some of our partners down the 400 corridor who would like for their business to look a little bit better to the person driving up and down. So maybe there's some opportunity there as well.
I appreciate that, and that is a great idea. Here's a list of what those maintenance specs would look like. Picking up roadside trash and debris essentially every day. Somebody have to be dedicated to do that. You see bumpers, you see signs, you see bags of garbage, and it's just there every day. Mowing the roadside and the medians weekly. Applying the herbicide around signs, utility poles, utility structures, a guardrail, and of course the landscape beds that are already out there for the gateways. Concrete paving joints, that's just a pet peeve of mine, seeing grass growing up through concrete joints. They don't address that. Of course, pesticides and fertilizers you need, edge, prune, mow, remove weeds, trash in the roundabouts and in the approaches. That's one thing that's not in the current landscape contract is actually the approaches. All they come out and do is the roundabout itself. The approaches need attention, the guardrails, the gutter, all that needs more attention than what we've been able to provide. Plant seasonal flowers, color, I think needs to happen in not only the roundabouts, but possibly in the gateway area specifically. Pine straw on the beds, pruning, landscaping. One of the biggest items, and I think maybe the chairman might have been referring to, is reestablishing the grass spots. You see dirt spots along Highway 400. My operations manager, you know him well, has already, the light bulb struck in his head. He said, I can get grass there. So that would be part of that, part of the program as well. So I think it's a very doable program. What I need to do is to obviously have some equipment to start up with, and I've identified those equipments and labor. To do this, I really need 3 equipment operator 1s, entry level, and an operator 2 with the CDL. And that would be their focus. It's just this particular program that I'm presenting. Of course, you got materials and supplies, fuel, and some planting materials, mulch, and all that kind of good stuff. The equipment I'm estimating at about a little over $400,000, and the annual reoccurring labor and other equipment costs would match that. I'm not sure I've got the real cost from finance of that, but we're looking at $150,000, $170,000 a year. So a total of FY25, $555,000. Big ask. That's the hourly rate. I don't know the benefit rates. So
Yeah, but by the time you add insurance and all that stuff,
you got down
you're
here.
talking,
Let's see.
you're talking 70 base level, 75,000 an individual. So that's what, that's 300.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get
Got it
that
right
number from them.
We have it. We have it.
Yep.
65 for the, I guess, the 3 and 68 for the other. We've got it here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So that's the program in a nutshell. I know it's a big request, but I feel very good about this request. One of the biggest challenge, and I doesn't need to be missed, is filling those vacancies and
Right.
keeping those employees. We know that's going to be a challenge.
Let me ask you this question, Rob. How
Mhm.
many vacancies do you currently have?
I've had 3 operator 3 vacancies since long before I got here, and my goal is to eventually fill those. But right now, other than those positions, I had an operator 1 leave this week.
Mhm.
So, and I still have an operator 2 vacancy. So I got
hopefully-
2 vacancies I want to fill as quickly as I can.
So obviously, hoping this training program will be positive in that aspect like it was with the fire department and some of that as well. Have you done a comparison on what it would cost to contract this particular program out?
We have reached out to a contractor
To do
and
exactly what you're asking them to do here?
exactly what I'm asking to do here. And the contractor says, based on the acreage that he sees, we're looking at approximately 136,000 a year for just 400. And then another 50 some thousand for the roundabouts as well. So annually, $180,000, $200,000. That's
Or
correct.
say that
Thank you.
include-
That's
I
correct.
also feel
That
like,
wouldn't be material yet.
That's correct.
I just feel like you don't get though what you, like, you know what your expectations are, you know what the county's expectations are. I just feel like, I mean, I understand. What? I understand contracting out on some stuff, but I do get, I don't know, I get a little leery about contracting out when you, because then I just feel like you're in a contract, but you're not getting what you're paying for. Or what you're not getting the service, the level of service that you feel like you went into the contract looking for.
Thank you.
On the operator threes that you said you have 3 open,
I do.
do they still require CDLA?
They do.
Okay,
And motor grader experience.
okay. Is that the issue? Or is it the
Uh,
pay? Like, what's the issue? Like, why do you think you're having a hard time filling
It's a
those?
combination of both.
Okay. Experience for the pay?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think
that's
one
a
of the
better way to
things
put it.
Robert runs into obviously is he gets somebody trained in CDL, then that opens up their ability to go to a whole lot of places for more money.
Didn't we put in a program where they have to stay?
Well, you can buy your way out of that though.
Yeah, but
We put 3 through the program late last year.
yeah,
And one of them left. And
But-
he bought his way out. He had to.
You can buy your
reimburse
way
us.
out of that. See, that's the thing about it is you can have that,
yeah,
but then there's a buyout of that. And if I own a company over here that I really want this guy,
they can get you to
that's
pay.
minuscule for me to put
Sure.
that money back to the county and take that person anyway.
Yeah.
And you see that in every aspect of what we do in reference to that, whether it's fire, EMS, sheriff's office. These counties are willing, or even companies are willing to buy that, pay that difference. So the reason I asked you about contract, and I agree with you that I think we would do it better ourselves because we would be more dedicated to that. But if we can't fill what you already need and we need to get this done, contract may be our only way of doing that. In reference to making sure that it's done, because I mean, I know that takes a person, that takes somebody with your staff that you already have to go out there and say, okay, I'm gonna make sure you're doing A, B, C, D, E. So if I'd like to have both, the dollar amount. I mean, I know you've got some numbers there so that we can look at both of those and see if we can figure out a way to help you, because I really do want to help you. And you can ask Joey. I told him that Public Works is one of my number one priorities this year in reference to this budget, is because, you've had the most trouble. And I'm glad to see this training thing. And that's one of the things that'll help, I think, us be able to maintain a staff there, because we've got to get you to where you have a staff. You have to have a staff to do any work. You just can't do work with no staff. And so we got to get you to that point. And if that means money and training and money tied to training or whatever it is, then that's what we got to look at. And so
Is the operator 2 who would be over that crew?
It would be managing the crew on site, but there'll be a foreman overseeing the crew itself.
That was my question. And we're not like it's an existing foreman.
It's an existing foreman.
Okay. Is this going to be like the foreman who looks over the mowing crew?
That's the plan.
Okay. I mean, because it seems like a lot of the same stuff. That's why I was curious.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of experience in this
Right.
particular operation. But I don't want to come to you without giving you an alternative. And that would be an alternative is not doing the 400 corridor, but doing the 7 roundabouts and the 2 gateway areas as well. It's just an option. Again, we need to do something at the minimal with this for FY '25. And cost estimate is significantly less, obviously, and I don't need an operator 2 to just do this program. And some of the equipment, I won't need some of the equipment that I'm asking for as well. So it's probably half the cost.
Well, equipment be a one-time purchase anyway, so that would go
Correct.
for years, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
My one question on the equipment, and you may have kind of factored this in other areas. I don't see it on the price breakdown, but I don't see a lawnmower in particular. It's tractors and bush hogs. Do we have something that we can utilize? Because I mean, I certainly feel like there's some areas that maybe need to be, I know you put a finish mower on here, which can be a little more precise than just a bush hog, but certainly some areas may need a zero turn in there.
We have 3 of them on
Okay.
in the bay right now.
Perfect.
It's the whole gateway thing has been something that we've bantered around ever since I've been on this board. And we've even talked about some local volunteer groups that are passionate about wildflowers and things like that. And I know certain communities have the wildflower program. GDOT has a wildflower program, I believe. And there's a lot of grant money that's available for this stuff. The thing that really was an eye opener several years ago, right after Billy and I got on, we had encouraged a grant to be applied for. I can't remember what year it was. We got the grant, it was a matching grant, and those 2 beds in front of John Meagle and Applebee's, those 2 beds cost $140,000. Which was absolutely, I was the one that promoted the go get the grant, let's do something. I actually voted against it because I thought it was such an asinine amount of money to spend for that, where there's a lot of people that are passionate about Dawson County. The way it looks, I want it to be when you drive up 400, it looks different, that you've arrived in a different
Pops.
environment in different county.
Pops.
We have a lot of revenue that's generated on tourism. I mean, we hang our hat on that. So I think there's validity in spending some capital on this. What I would say on the either going head first diving in, I would disagree a little bit with the statement that, and it wasn't a blanket statement that all contracts are, you don't get what you pay for. We've got
So
a
I was speaking from
phenomenal,
Public Works.
yeah,
from
we got a
downstairs.
phenomenal contract with, I think our legal team, so that's a contract. We got a great thing with McCormick and Associates. Those have been proven that you can't do it in-house efficiently, and it works to contract it out. So I think there is validity in looking at that as an option. I would say, in my opinion, I would prefer us to try that for a year to see what kind of, before we make the capital investment in more people, as well as, $500,000 in equipment, let's see what that, if it's 130,000 and you said the materials and stuff was another 50, 60,000. I mean, you're talking 200 grand for a year that could at least see what that program may look like and what kind of ROI we get on that.
I'll tell you that we did contract out the roundabouts in the beginning and it was a crap fest, which is why I said that. I was not speaking to contracts in general. I was speaking from a public works perspective, just to make clarity there. But the roundabouts, we did not get what we had. The contract stated this. We got the very minimum of that. I will also say that when the board approved that the 2 beds in front of Meagle and Applebee's, Public Works was furious because it is a whole lot of maintenance. It was a whole lot of money, and it doesn't look great. It's just really, like, you can't even see it from the road hardly. They're plants this big. It's grown a little since then, but it was a whole lot of money with a whole lot of maintenance for a crew that we didn't have at the time. And like he said, you pull in, you don't see anything different. And quite frankly, you think that Applebee's is doing it and that John Meagle's doing it. So it doesn't even look like a county initiative. So my biggest thing with the contracts was just that we have experienced that. So I do think if we contract it out, my whole thought was if it costs $300,000 to do it and we can contract it out for $200,000, I personally would rather spend the extra $100,000. And for all those that are listening that say, I'm not saying that's pocket change. I'm just saying that I don't pay someone to clean my house. It would be a huge convenience, but I know how I want my house cleaned. It's not worth the money to spend if they don't do it the way that I want it done, because I'm just having to do it again. Same situation with contracting these out. We've seen it before where it's not done appropriately. It's not done up to par. And now we've spent taxpayer money with something that isn't done the way that we wanted it done. So that was my only point, is that we've seen that done before. It was done poorly. So I would rather spend the extra $100,000 to see it done just the way that we have expected for it to be done.
If you look up and down 400, and I drive up and down 400 through different counties on a regular basis, and I'm not gonna say always, because always is a big statement, but the vast majority of the time, those ramps where they have all the beautification things on the ramps there on your exits are all subcontracted out. I hardly ever see any government employees that are doing that. And the contract, you're going to get out of it how you manage it. So, or what you put into it. So, if you define clearly what you want and those are your expectations, I just don't want to discard the idea and the option. So you can look at both and we'll go from there, I guess.
Just a question. I know we're talking about some of these contracts and the potential to hire it out. Do you have enough equipment in-house to maybe try it for a year if that was an option
You don't
without
have to take
spending
this.
that capital?
No, I do not, nor do I have the staff.
Well, my question was if you were given the staff,
Oh, okay.
but not necessarily the equipment up front, just to try. Okay.
I've bush hogged 400 myself one time. I got so mad.
I want to jump on something that Commissioner Gaines mentioned about the enhancement grant. It's not every year. I've reached out to DOT if there is, any money available. I haven't got a response back yet, but we do want to match and go after some grant money if it frees up again. They don't call it the highway beautification enhancement. They have another name for it now.
There's certain areas that have CIDs.
Yes.
Certain areas have CIDs that overlay those areas because I think you brought it up to your point. If you're a business owner, and it's interesting how in front of, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but in front of like, what's the Italian place there on the corner? The new one?
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden, the hill there, it's not mowed and maintained, but you go in front of the gas station where Kroger's at, they're maintaining it. And so, some of those are taking their own steps in order to maintain in front of their businesses, but there could be something to say about, would there be participation amongst all other businesses in that corridor to help fund some of this to make sure the whole corridor looks good?
Well, and that's one of the things I was talking about before, when we go to talk to GDOT is, and we can involve the chamber in reference to the public-private partnership
Sure.
piece of it.
Sure.
Maybe, if we're willing to take it on and help GDOT out, they help us with some of the funding. We can do some of the funding and then public-private partnership, some of the funding in that as well. And I think there's an opportunity there because it, in my opinion, behooves the business owner, have it looking good. Might get somebody to stop there and do some business with them that they're looking for. So I think we got several opportunities here to help Robert and his crew make this happen and beautify the corridor at the same time.
Chairman, we do have a funding source, a potential funding source in hotel motel tax. Because we have built up about $400,000 in fund balance in hotel motel tax that could potentially be used for that. Just a thought.
Of what we get. Okay. All right. That's good too. Always like revenue.
Mr. Chairman, if I could too, and it's been great conversation. I'm glad we're having great conversation. Just a couple of points for clarity, especially on the 400 corridor, that's right away belongs to the state and they've got to agree to give us permission to be out there. I feel pretty certain they'll let us do as much as we want to, but we do have to go through that process. Even if this is funded, there may be some time before we get these agreements in place with DOT. But I got a feeling they'll let us do as much as we want to do. The contractor, a point on that, there's only going to be a couple of companies in Northeast Georgia that are going to be interested in bidding on this. And one of the big factors is liability. Liability is different running a mower next to 400 or Lumpkin Campground than cutting your neighbor's grass. And that's one of the factors of their cost is you're going to tear something up. You're going to tear something up out there. So that's just a point on that.
The flaggers.
I know Robert didn't want me to bring it up, but
Yeah.
we have been talking to some folks about some alternative labor that we might be able to get. We're not prepared today to talk about that, but we're trying to get a little bit outside the box on labor. And Robert, how much was the grant available? If they even open it this year, it's what, $50,000?
Approximately 50,000.
It's a pretty small amount of money that we can get from the state. Thank you.
Okay. If I can move on,
Yes,
because I know I'm pressing into your lunch soon, or
Right.
some 11 o'clock lunches. I want to talk about the capital improvements that I'm proposing in my FY 25.
Mhm.
Equipment replacements in roads I've identified, and I've got to pull them up. Where did I pull it? In roads, I've identified a couple pieces of equipment that need replacing. We have the steel roller compactor for asphalt. We have sign truck and a water truck. Both of those are 26 years old. And a chipper that needs to be replaced as well. Now, I realize I have some SPOS money for equipment. I'm not sure it'll cover all of it. But I did want to identify that I did have some equipment needs. And in waste services, I have some needs there as well. The mini excavator is matter of fact, I got a report this morning. I got to spend $11,000 on that piece of equipment for repairs in the next couple of weeks. So I need to replace that. I'm also looking and putting in my budget. Now, this is waste services, so this is coming out of that.
Solid waste.
It's correct. A roll-off truck, a new roll-off truck. I know pulling those containers we're doing well. We're using the storm truck to do that. It's a roll-off truck. It ties it up. But we are pulling 1-2 cans a week, and that's time and effort. So I'd really like to get a roll-off truck just identified for waste services. And also a compactor, a stationary compactor. I want to compact my cardboard, and I can possibly get some EPD grants on that. So that's going to be in my budget as well. LMIG for 2025. DOT's already put a dollar figure out there, what they're willing to grant the county. And I've got 2 projects on there, Afton Road, and it needs to be deep patched, leveled, and resurfaced. And Emma Trace, as you know, it's a low connector road. It needs to be deep patched, a little bit of widening and some resurfacing. So that's my LMIG for 2025. That request will be coming to you before the end of the year. The landfill, just to bring that up, it's been discussed for years about relocating the methane vent system. And as a matter of fact, back in 2000, several years ago, the county hired our contractor, methane landfill contractor, to do some design work to relocate. The methane system needs to be moved downhill because it's building up condensation and not allowing the methane to vent. So it hadn't been active in quite some time. So the plan is to relocate it, and that's $450,000. And that figure came from our engineer. So that you'll see that in my capital request. SPLOST for 2025. I hope you're happy to see the Shoal Creek roundabout at 136. We've got the right of way. We've done the design work. It's 100% complete. We're just waiting on the DOT to give us a permit so that we can go. So we're going to be bidding that out within the next, I'm going to knock on wood and probably quote it in the paper, but hopefully bid that out in the next couple of weeks. That's the plan.
She smiled.
Completely off target. That's right.
She's smiling.
Shoal Creek Road itself, we have an agreement with the city of Dawsonville to mill and resurface Shoal Creek Road. We kind of held off on that, and the city's been accommodating that. But once they close the bridge for the bridge replacement, then that'll be a good time to do that. So that'll be 2025 as well, early in 2025. So those are my 2 SPLOST projects, and of course, matching funds for the LMIG can come from SPLOST as well. And the other one I want to point out here is T-SPLOST. I'm excited to stand here and tell you that I've got a capital program for T-SPLOST. Thank you to the voters of Dawson County. We're going to be able to collect about $12 million for 2025. We are very close to hiring a program manager, or at least presenting a program manager to the board to manage that project, that program for us. We've got a lot of logistics to work out, finance, cash flow, project schedules, a lot to work out there. But that is now a capital project, so I'm excited about that one. 2 more to show you. This is the recycling center. What I'd like to do, we use that old facility out there for recycling. It's very effective, very good. What I want to do is extend the canopy on that roof line about 13 feet to allow citizens dry space to empty their recyclables. I've got an engineer, the design work done by a structural engineer, so structurally it can be done. It's just a cantilever, another 13 feet out. Also want to sandblast the existing structure and repaint some of that. So we're looking at about $100,000 for that again, from some solid waste or waste services. And then the last one I want to show you is what I call a pole shed. I know that's an old term. At the Public Works yard where we park our equipment, I'd like to put some sort of a shelter so we can park it under the weather, out of the weather. It's getting a lot of abuse, sun and rain. So I'm proposing a shed. This is what it looks like. It's basically 20 by 130 feet, 7,300 square feet. And I really just threw out a number of $40 a square foot. I don't know if that's high or low, but that comes in at about $292,000. That is my capital request. And if there are any more questions, I can answer.
Questions for Robert? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time again.
So elections is not coming. So they're actually going down, their budget is. Yep, all right. I think we're up to going. Make sure that okay, we're up to the Bowen Center for the Arts. Is Miss Elizabeth Ann Dalton? Come on up. Good morning.
My third time coming before you and pleading the case of Bowen Center for the Arts. I've brought some materials with me
Okay.
and thank you.
Whiz, all right.
Change it up.
There you go. I'll see what Alexa puts down over here.
Yeah, don't look at Chris's.
Hey, down all the way down. Hey.
You've already messed up on one. You all messed up on one, yeah.
Yeah, you can't put that.
How many visitors have been? A. Introduce you to Warren King, who
I believe we know him.
is the chair. I live in that back room there.
Yeah.
Warren and I are on the executive committee for the Bowen. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do need that because that's when people tell me that I'm much too soft-spoken. Did you?
All right.
You don't need one? Okay. All right. I'll give you a second to take a look at the questions I put on the outside of the envelope and see what you know about the Bowen. You are not going to be graded on this. You won't have to take it home for your parents to sign.
Citizen review. Go ahead.
Okay, inside your envelopes is an answer key. And I just thought I'd run through these. Sorry. There are many different art forms that are represented by the Bowen Center for the Arts. A lot of people think it's just an art center where you go and look at pictures. But we have during any given year, a number of different exhibits. And so we have so far this year represented in our halls, both painting, oil, acrylic, and watercolor exhibits, drawing, photography, sculpture, glass blowing, fiber arts, quilting, wood turning, music, dance, and model airplanes.
How many you got that right? What'd you put, Alexa?
For which one?
The number one. How many different ones?
Plus.
How many did you put?
So technically I was right.
More than you realize.
That's a political answer, I think. I like it.
Go ahead.
How many of you know when the Bowen was open?
I do.
Want
I
to-
said 15 years ago, but it was 14 years
Okay,
ago.
want to give, shout out a year.
2000.
September of 2000, so 24 years ago.
It's September, yeah. It's
Oh, 24 years ago. Yeah.
So in September of 2000, the Bowen opened its doors in the Old Rock Schoolhouse. So far this year, we have had, and this is just as of this week, 8,135 visitors. Are you surprised?
I see that the parking lot is full every time I drive up.
Well, that's an issue because a lot of people park on the street or they
Yeah.
park down in the
School area.
school parking lot
Yeah.
or even behind us. Right now, we have a quilt exhibit and we're drawing people from out of state. There was a small busload of ladies from Alabama that came this week. So it's an art form that not is always represented. We're getting known for different kinds of exhibits. There are a number of different classes we've begun to offer after we were shut down for COVID, and we want to grow that opportunity to learn and draw or even sculpt as time goes on. Some of our local organizations utilize the Bowen because we do have open space that we could handle a group of about 100. We have a new audiovisual system that both the Aviators and the Women's Club and the Rotary contributed to. So we have state-of-the-art equipment that isn't available anyplace else in the county. We have one part-time employee. And that's an issue because if we're going to grow and we're going to serve more of our residents and whatnot, we really need to have either 2 part-time people or 1 full-time person with an occasional helper. So as of this time, the funding that comes to the county comes through the Chamber of Commerce. And you've been very generous about that. And it is earmarked for printing and publication because I guess the thought is that we will draw people into the county because of that advertising. And it has been well used. But the Bowen needs more. We need help in terms of maintaining our facility. We are fortunate enough to be housed in the Old Rock Schoolhouse, which is part of the school property. They lease it to the Bowen for $1 a year. And that's very generous, but the lease also requires that we maintain the building. And it's an old building with a roof that has some serious problems, as well as the windows that are leaking terribly. And because they are historic, we can't remove them and replace them or alter them, or it loses its historic significance. So our hands are kind of tied with some of that. So it's very wonderful to be where we are, right in the center of town. And to draw people here, we need to have more people that support the whole thing. And our membership is very generous. We have close to 200 members to date, and that has been growing over time. We had a setback with COVID, which everybody did, but we're moving forward, and that membership is growing. We have had 3 major fundraisers and 1 to happen this weekend. And I put a flyer for that in your envelope as well. We're going to have a sporting clays event at a facility that's right here in Dawsonville. And so we do have some activities that add to our income, but we're really at a break-even point. So if we need to grow, I'd like to see if somehow in the county budget, we could find some additional money to help support staffing so that we have to have people on board in order to schedule activities to run and maintain and whatnot. So I don't want to take any more of your time than I need to. I know it's been a busy couple days, and I will hope that you will take what I have given you into consideration when you make a decision about funding for the Bowen. But I'd like to share one little secret before I go. The Georgia Council for the Arts, it's a state organization, is sponsoring a traveling art show, and it will be housed in 10 communities around the state. And guess which community is one of them?
Awesome.
Okay. So in the summer of not this coming year, but the following year, we will have a Georgia State traveling exhibit and a contest for local artists to participate. It has not been publicly announced, but I was assured yesterday that I could speak to the council about what's coming up. So this too will bring some notoriety to Dawsonville and to Dawson County. I'd like the Bowen to be a representative of what this community has to offer. We have all kinds of wonderful recreation, sports activities, and facilities, but I think it would behoove us to support the arts. Thank you
Ask
very
you one
much.
question.
Sure.
Okay, so just to clarify so that I understand, you guys are asking for 16,500 additional money, correct?
Yes.
Okay, will that go towards staffing or will that go towards repairs or?
Not necessarily repairs. I'd like to add a part-time person.
Okay, I just want to make sure what we're.
But
revenues-
we could spend it in a number of different ways, but if
But that's what you need is
specifically,
your part-time
that's
person.
one of the needs that we really have.
Okay, and then I just out of curiosity, have y'all had a lot of people sign up for this?
It's a moderate response.
Okay,
Okay, there's, what I
curious.
found out is when we scheduled it, we were running against the shore sweep.
oh yeah,
And there are a couple other school
Stuff on,
sports
yeah.
related things. So we may be looking at a different date in the coming years and an opportunity to grow. This is the first year, and we're thinking about, there's a wonderful event that happens in Charleston, and it's a sporting event as well as arts, and it draws thousands of people, thousands. And there's nothing like it in this area at all. So we're thinking big and thinking for the future.
Thank
So
you.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
You can all go to lunch.
That part of it, what they spend it, that 13's promoting it. For your gun. I'm doing short sleeve. I've done that for many years. Then I go in there. Good luck on that. Kidding. A lot of guys. So. Many, many years. Good. I mean, I live on the lake, so. Just found nature. Here. Seaweed, you'll see what they do. Nature, art, and W. Series.
believe it's in the center of Dawson County.
Yeah, that's. Yes.
They want to make sure it's ADA trails, but they're not ADA trails. So it's really, regardless, it's like.
Just run. Big money, big dealership out there. Oh, yeah, no, this, that would be. So it's huge and I think unique. And it's a time of year. Yeah, it's just not baseball. Summer vacation.
let me tell you something. So I was on vacation, much needed time with some of my family. And, I don't like Healing Springs, but this was till 7:30 last night. And I'm so, oh, you're somebody after me? Oh, I'm not nervous, but I'm on steroids. Because I am ate up with poison ivy. So when I leave here, can you go give me a shot? So I did the, oh, I'm going with you. So I did the teledoc thing or what it flex and I'm on day 3 and it's not any better. And, it's everywhere. I don't know how it gets everywhere, but I've learned my lesson when trimming trees, wear the long clothes. But, I'm on steroids, so if I act a little bit out of it, that is why. So good afternoon, morning still? Morning, you got 9 minutes. I got 9 minutes. Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Thurman and board members and my coworkers for allowing, and my boss for allowing me to come before you today. So, since Natalie sent me yesterday or day before yesterday, our, what we turned in for our budget, we have actually, Tammy and I have gone through it and we've made some changes. And if you will notice on the first page of our main general budget, that we've lowered it about $10,000. So that amount is actually less than 2023 and 2024. So we are only asking for some slight changes there that I will go over briefly. And as mentioned before last night when I was watching the YouTube thing, thanks to Aaron, I got this word, they're conservative real request. And a lot of them are based on trends. So the first thing was we lowered the property repair and maintenance back down to $10,000 because we were giving extra funding to put in 1 new air conditioner unit in the Weaver building. And luckily, facilities has one on staff that all we had to do was order the equipment and they installed it for us. And we have received 3 quotes on fixing the door at the Weaver building. It's not really broken. It does give us issues. It is a bifold door, but in order to meet the ADA requirement for that building, the building, of course, is over 31 years old, but that door is over 20 years old. So we did get 3 quotes. It's been signed off and approved by finance and it's probably going to take 2 months, but we know we got to get it done by the end of the year. So the extra money was put in there for those 2 projects. We were a little bit low in one area, so we had to, Tammy worked with Natalie on changing some funding in there so we could make sure we paid for that and get that in so we would stay in compliance with risk management. The other was that I have an increase just slightly in travel and education and training. Let's see. Just because I really want to send my staff to some more, not conferences, but trainings. Like there's a couple of us going over to Lakewood Church for a respite Alzheimer's class. I do serve on the board of directors for the Meals on Wheels of Georgia. I usually every year attend the Meals on Wheels of America conference. I did not this year because it was in Baltimore. And I'm a little bit gun shy when it comes to some cities. My sister right now is in Chicago and I'm going never. So I try to go to that conference every year as well as, my 2 employees have to be safe served. So I would like to try to increase that just a little bit. My dues and fees, I actually lowered it to 1,500 because we had ordered Zoom because we had to have it for something special. We no longer need it, and our notary was updated this past year, so we don't have to update that. So we lowered that. Of course, about the increase, $500 in education and training and $1,000 in travel. In the past, we've had to transfer money to cover both of those. I did just attend the gerontology seminar, 3-day in LaGrange, and it was very, very good. We lowered the natural gas to $5,000 based on the current and past year trends, and those are attached in the budget information. Based on the yearly expenses. Based on the energy and electricity, we've increased it from 16 to 19.5, and you can see the trends in the budget. It's just like James Talbert talked about with this building. We have 2 buildings. And when my exercise people work out, they cut it down. And then I go over there and I'm going, it's freezing, and I'm usually hot natured, and I'm going, I know you pay this power bill, but what if you really had to pay this power bill? I mean, really, you're paying it as a taxpayer, but I would absolutely die if I had to pay for those 2 buildings and this building right here. So I think if you look at the trends, I think that the 19.5 is more accurate. Because if you look at what we've spent already this year, we're not going to meet it. Right. I mean, we're going to be in the hole on it. It's just not happening. Electricity has gone up, and I keep our building, we have 3 thermostats, and I keep it on 74, and I run a fan in my office, but if not, I would burn up. But I try to make sure our exercise people cut it down after exercise. On food, we definitely need to increase that. It has been decreased in the past, but if you will look at our performance measures, as well, everything has grown, and I have got more clients than ever. And we have more events. Luckily, when I was leaving, I had a Humana rep that came in that was going to talk a little bit because open enrollment. I don't know if any of you, maybe Billy might be in open enrollment on Medicare. Mr. Thurman, are you getting there?
I am there.
Okay, so we do so much in October, November, and December on open enrollment. So she was there and she was doing a presentation, and right before I left, so she brought in a tray of cookies and brownies. So a lot of times
I
that
can
that
tell
helps
you
us
that I have
out.
gotten information from everybody that sells insurance known to man.
I know. How about people that want to buy your house?
That too.
Yes. So we have all the groups come in for those 3 months and talk about, and then we have Legacy Link also, which is our expert. But we let them all come in and do their little presentations, and we give our clients all kind of options of what they need to change to with their professionals. So in our budget, that is basically most of the changes in there. Like I said, it is lower on the senior service. And if you will notice, the only salary on that is our nurse. Everything else is partially grant funded. And they come up during the year with GDOT that will come before the board tonight, DHS, Legacy Link, because they're in a different calendar cycle. The other department under me, Silver Sneakers, we had asked for an increase in there or the same amount in there that we had. 2 years ago, Legacy Link gave us ARPA funding because they wanted us to start a new class, the sit and stretch class.
And yesterday I had 22 people in that class. They only meet on Monday and Wednesdays. This is the class that I cannot get them to go to the other building and exercise. These are the ones that will move to a chair and sit the whole time and do different type of exercises. And we spend our ARPA funding, so the county would have to pick up that. But we do get $250 a month from Silver Sneakers. It doesn't show that on the budget. I guess it goes into the general fund
Revenue.
as revenue. Okay, so I sort of look at that. Yes, I'm asking for this, but I get
Kind of a balance.
$3,000 to offset that. It doesn't balance out. It probably would be close to balancing out, but in that amount, we did take out holidays because for the 2 weeks at Christmas and the week of Thanksgiving, we don't teach any classes, as well as, some holidays fall on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that we have to pay somebody. So those are real figures. I did lower the training and the travel on that because the person that has to be certified for that, Denise Vincent, she's been able to do it online, and she teaches at another location. So she could possibly get her certification through there. And then if we had to offset it, we don't get a lot of donations at all. But if we do get donations, there's some people that because they are not members of Silver Sneakers, because they can't get it based on the insurance they got, they'll give us a little bit of donation to help offset that cost. So if we do have to take some money from that, we can. But I really want to keep teaching that class. We've probably got 25 enrolled, and I would hate to take that class away from them. The other item in our budget is the respite class. That's involved in Legacy Link, but it is a separate agenda item in there. It includes we only get reimbursed for 12 hours for that class because it meets on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 4. So we get a unit cost back on that. And right now we are full with a waiting list, and it's remarkable, 3 men and 2 women. And they're all different, some local, some not local. But we have people that we call that have came in and received a tour that says, put me down when someone either passes or they have to go in a personal care home. I'm not sure how we work out the grant, but it appears that most of the employees' fringe may come out of the grant. We would have to look into that further. We might have to ask finance. But there's plenty of room left in there to increase that employee's salary, which I will go over when I bring those before you. I don't want to leave any money on the table, especially when it comes to our grants. But they do not allow us, like some of the other ones, to move our funding around. And I can talk further about that. But like I said, the other accounts, Legacy Link, DHS, Transit, they're in there. But the way finance works with us is we got some mid-years, and because it's a totally different cycle, and we always, as Chairman Thurman is aware, we get addendums throughout the year that change those amounts, and we bring those before you for approval. Any questions on the budget amounts
Questions for Dawn?
on that part?
Go ahead.
Okay, the second thing I included was our position control. The second page with the one in green is the one I've updated. I've asked to get this updated several times because it's not correct as far as grant funding, because it's like I said, every position we have is partially grant funded with the exception of our nurse. And I wanted you to be able to see that and what was grant funded and the funding allocations that they come out of. And
there are different ones for whatever different general fund account there is. So I wanted you to see a correct copy of that and that there are 18 of us and probably 20 volunteers that we oversee that help us. But everybody's grant funded, but that one person, and I wanted you to be aware of that. And I will get with HR again to try to get that corrected so the right information is out there. I do have a few salary requests. As some of the other departments have stated, they have a lot of trouble trying to find people to take positions. One of those was my transit driver positions, which we have 4. In 2024, we had 1 opening. We had 3 applications. 1 wanted to work a month. 1 would not call me back, so we went with a 3rd. And then also when we went to hire our new this summer food service coordinator, we had 1 to apply because that is you just don't find one of those anywhere. I stole one from Forsyth County. And I felt like I was sort of criticized because I picked her out. Well, I've been doing this for a long time. And I know the people that want a job. I know the people that want to come to work for us. And I feel good about that. That she had asked me years before to come to work whenever I had an opening. So did I seek her out? Yes, I did. And she was willing to take a pay cut and come to work in her hometown. So 1 only applied for that. But the transit drivers was one of the real ones that I wanted to see increased. One of those transit drivers is paid out of some new money that we started getting 2 years ago called TTFP money, Transit Trust Fund Program. And we're waiting to get our 3rd year, but it's about $30,000 a year. The first year, it was a little bit more and it helped pay for salaries and it helped with fringe, and it was also helped us get the new cameras in the new buses that we're getting, as well as the tracking device after one of our situations. And this was recommended by our county manager, and it has been great. We are actually switching to a new system. I've got someone coming in tomorrow to put new cameras in our newest bus. And that's going to be part of the TTFP funding. And it will have the tracking device already on it. It's live, real time. You can go on there and look where that person is and how many miles per hour they're going, if they're over the speed limit or whatever. So we'll be able to cancel our contract with Verizon that is doing that now. And it's not real expensive, but I had really never thought about that until the county manager brought it up after we had an incident. So we did have a meeting this morning and we will get hopefully the new buses in the next couple of months, and that will give us 3, and then we have 1 more coming next year. Okay, the first position that I wanted to talk to, and just something briefly, I did ask for copies of the position control as well as some other things from some of the other departments. This is where I took my numbers, my grades, my rates, changes or increases in grades because I felt like there was a lot of disparity between some departments, and
It has been for a long time. It was that way before we did the salary study, I believe in 19. And afterwards, the person that was hired to do the salary study and upper management has always told me that, you know, it wasn't a great salary study. And since that time, there has been so many changes to so many departments. I mean, the three big ones, you know, it's just way, way out there. You can't even compare them to anything. And, you know, one department was called, I guess it was because you got some ARPA money, first responders. Well, I consider me and my staff first responders too. If it rains, sleets, or snows and people can't get food, my drivers, they say, we'll come in and drive our personal vehicles to deliver stuff. While others was given a great increase, there was a lot of other departments that were left out. So what I feel like I'm doing is I'm trying to fix a problem. But the person I met with was not interested at all in me. I met with him on 2 occasions after I turned my paperwork and emailed, got nothing out of him, nothing accomplished from him. So the increases in reclassifications are in the packet that I'm going to talk to you about. But like everyone else, we see the growth in our county and our client numbers have increased, especially, I know y'all hear this, the new apartments and the senior housing. But the new senior housing that has gone in behind Burger King has brought us in several new driving clients. And some's come in and visited. We have a couple of new couples that are coming in, and they're younger couples. So we're meeting a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. We had about 34 when I left there today, and they were fixing to do Bible study. In the last 12 years, since I took the department over, we've only got 2 new positions. One was, they're both partially grant funded. One was the additional driver that we got from the TTFP money, because we had to have another driver because our routes had gone up and people are using transit more and more, especially when gas is as expensive as it is. And then the respite coordinator, when we started this program, we were in the Weaver building, and Legacy Link let us start it and pay maybe half of their salary and a good portion of their fringe. And the first client I had in there was one of my teachers from high school. So we had one, and then we had 2, and then we had none. Luckily now there is such a need out there because it's a respite care program for people that need to step away from their loved one that has dementia or Alzheimer's. And I know this firsthand. This job is 24/7 to me because when I leave work, I go to my parents, and my dad is in late stage Alzheimer's and dementia. And luckily my mom gets 3 days a week, 4 hours a day that she can go get her groceries and go see people. And I don't know what she would do if she didn't have that. And my dad was in the program, but he got to the point where he couldn't be in the program anymore. It wasn't doing him any good, and there was some issues there. So I had to take him out of the program, and now he's at home full time. The first position that I want to talk to you about, and I tried to go in per talking with Natalie about this, is the senior service assistant. I would like to change her title and grade to a client service manager. I have worked on this for years, and change her from a 13 to a 16. I'm not going to read you everything because you can read in there. This person is the most important person to me in my department. I don't know what I would do without her. She assists with all the processing of the grants, RFPs for senior center and transit. If you look at her hire date, it's not your basic admin assistant job that is classed at a 10 or 11. I mean, she works with finance very, very closely. I just want her to be graded as others, and her salary changed. Uh, when I'm not there, she's the supervisor of the other 17 or 18 there. And has to look over everything, and she had to for 7 or 8 days a couple of weeks ago. And there, in that decision, she also has to make major decisions for the staff. So I would like to see her compared to the two positions that I had listed above. And if you will look at the hire dates, and that amount is based on her hire date. And then the second position I listed, uh, that person has been here 5 years and what they make. So this is an increase in salary of $10,151. And of course, I know there will be some fringe increase, but some of that salary is grant funded. So it's not a total $10,000 increase once you look at the grant funding. This is the major one that like I said, that I've been trying to get changed. We've gone through different processes. We've gone through different county managers. We've gone through different forms. We've gone through different times I could bring this before the board. And this is one, if you have any questions, please call or email me on it. Almost 40 years banking experience. I could go on, but I can't lose this person, because this person is me when I'm not there. And I don't know what's going to happen to me. Nobody knows. But we got to have somebody, to run the place when I'm not there, and to do everything and to take a load off of me. The second is a fix, is what I call a fix. 3 HR directors ago, we tried to fix this. Could not make him understand this. These are all 3 coordinators. They all need to be on the same pay scale. They all do the same type of work. They all are cross-trained. It is not right for one of them to make more than the other. The one that was brought in, I wanted a lower salary, and the HR director would not let me give them a lower salary. And I've never heard this in my life, because the previous person that was in that position had been with Dawson County for, I'm saying, about 15 years. So she had built up some longevity. So I'm just want to fix these 3, that they're all coordinators. They're all on the same grade. And what their proposed salary is based on when they were hired as, and I've added in the starting at the lowest rate. The men at 1889, and one would be at 1889, and that was just hired, and her salary would not change. And this is grades comparable to everything in position control. I didn't make any of this up. That's the min and max in position control. So that would only bring up really ID number 2023 that was hired last year, a little bit over, going on 2 years, to $20.14 an hour. It is not a whole lot whatsoever. I just don't want one of them, to make more than the other 2. And like I said, the second one, 2183, that salary is the salary that was proposed when I went to hire her, that we worked out with the county manager. So it's basically the top. I'm just trying to get them on the same pay scale and the same grade to fix a problem. Recently, our county manager handed out something that said, it is very, I took these words in his memo. It is very important that department heads give careful consideration to the existing salaries in the same position or grade when considering offers above minimum starting pay rate to new hires. As an organization, we should attempt to avoid compression issues when possible. Our county manager said, that's what I'm trying to fix here, is exactly what he said in a memo that he gave to department heads. And that was a new term with me, I think, in that sentence, compression. Transit coordinator has been there since, this is the next one, has been there since 2014. He was one that and I'm gonna use the word stole from the tax assessor's office like I did 3 or 4 others when I came out there and went to work. But I would like to change his grade from a 12 to a 14. I've turned in a new job description because I realized that the job description did not have everything in there that transit drivers and our transit coordinator is required to do. And I took these numbers from off the position control for grade 14 that I felt like those 3 positions were comparable. And that was the min and max off of the position control. So I'm staying in line with others, but this is a supervisory position. He's responsible for the 4 transit drivers. He has to take training, and this year he went and took the training to train our own people. So we do not, and it was paid for free by GDOT. So we do not have to send our people off to get some of the training. Other counties are coming to us and wanting him to come up there and us train him, or they can train their staff. So they will be charged for that. He was off today. He came in this morning to do the risk assessment phone call we had with GDOT just because he had to be on the call. He has to meet so many thresholds and receive certification and make sure that all the department is certified and trained, and works with HR to make sure that they go and have their drug and alcohol testing done. This position is grant funded. We're only responsible for 50% of the salary and benefits, but recently we were given some extra funding, and I think there was one year that they paid almost everything. So we only pay half of that grant. So you're only looking at a partial of his funds. But his salary is based on past and recent merit, longevity, COLA, and other employees with scale and years of service. The increase in $6,000 with the GDOT grant would bring it down to $3,016, plus if there was any additional fringe. The last one I wanted to go over was our transit drivers. We did get a nod from staff to give them a 5% increase, and their grade increased from a 6 to an 8. We were starting them out, I believe, at 1389, but I was able to increase that, I think, 5% to 1409 because we have some retirees that are driving and one on Medicare. I guess I need to quit talking about that because that discusses age. But I compared these to other grade 7, 8, and 9s that are on position control. These are the same way. They're grant funded with 50%. And then we are given, one of those position is with the TTFP money. So a lot of her salary is paid for in there. I told you about, can never get any applications because it doesn't pay anything. It's pretty much right above a custodian. And these people have to have past training, which is passenger assistance safety and sensitivity every 2 years. Of course, CPR every 2 years. They have to receive training from our transit coordinator, and then online ADA and sensitivity, bloodborne pathogens, customer service, defensive driving, distracted driving, drugs and alcohol, passenger safety, transported non-ambulatory passengers, problem passengers, and wheelchair securement. Yesterday, we did a field trip. I was a nervous wreck tying down that wheelchair that the lady sat in on the hour drive where we were going and the hour drive back. We entrust these people with all ages in Dawson County because it's public transportation. It's not just senior transportation. I feel like their salary needs to go a little bit higher and they needed to be graded a 9. But I do appreciate what staff turned in on those positions, but they are for drivers. It's not a lot of money when you look down at it. What I calculated was probably less than $1,000. But finance could probably help us out a little bit more with that. We do have one that's been there a long time, since 2013. So that's really the only one basically it affects. 11 years. The other 2 were hired last year, and then we hired one this year. So it's not going to affect them a whole lot, but it will get them more in line of where they need to be with similar and like positions and a little bit above some of the lowest maintenance facilities items. In closing, when considering these increases, there are times I feel like I have failed as a department head. 37 years in county government. And I want to make sure that my employees are paid accordingly. I've gone through the job descriptions that were recently advertised. I've had access to salary and grade changes. I feel like I've done a good job in comparing numbers. I'm not asking for a whole lot. I watched the videos. I know what was asked Tuesday. I do not want to be in your position. Some of them I shook my head at. So good luck with what you have to do, Chairman and other board members. I have watched previous administration and previous HR directors not adhere to policy, just change things. And I think we're going in a different direction now. I heard one department say on Tuesday that their staff was not overworked, but could use some help in asking for a new position. And it was about 11:30 at night and I just shook my head. Well, honestly, I'm exhausted. It was 7:30 last night when I left. It was 7:30 last night when she left. And a little bit of that is on me because I took some time off to spend with my grandson. I need some assistance to help overtake some of my duties so I can go out and find the clients that we are missing and find those new clients and go to these new subdivisions and go to these new places that are 55 and above. The one request was to change their job description will help alleviate some of the things off my desk. Please don't come look at my desk right now. Joey, please don't. By tomorrow, it will look much better. That way I can be more productive and be there and be the face to our seniors. I hated going in there, jumping off of that Zoom meeting, going in there, handing out the October calendar that she did this morning for me and say, I gotta go, but I gotta tell you a few things real quick because they're my family and I don't get to spend much time with them because of all the paperwork that I have to do. And I do a lot of it at home. I'm up there every Saturday and Sunday. There's something usually I need to do, but we have inherited a cat. Her name is Ivy. I got to get a picture of her and take to the funeral home because as most of you know, Mr. Edwin Leeper passed away. And his sister is the one that gave us the money to build to start the Ivy Center. So we named the cat Ivy. And we may have to be calling on a veterinarian to see if she needs shots. Yeah. And, but luckily we've had her for 3 months and no babies. So you try to look at her stomach to see the green line. Is there a green line?
If she was done at like a low cost place, I'll put a tattoo in it, yes.
Okay. She won't let you touch her stomach. She'll bite your head off. So I can't tell, but if she hadn't had a baby, any babies in 3 months, I think we're good. What you think?
Most likely.
Yeah, free vet service. Yes.
I'm
yes.
not, I'm gonna be like Billy. I'm not getting paid for this consultation.
I heard that when I was watching that last night. So I've got to take a picture of it so I can show it to Miss Betty Ann Bagley, who is Edwin Looper's sister, when I go to the funeral home. And we 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 lost him this week, and I know Chairman has known him his whole life like me. He used to be my neighbor. He was our client. Both of them were. It breaks my heart to see someone like that pass, but I feel like lately it's once a week that I am attending and going to some type of service or the funeral home. Our clients have definitely changed over the last few years. We go from 60 to 95 years of age. And as you know, as what you're dealing with, some of you with mothers, fathers, some of you still grandmother, that I cannot get up there to save my life. August, I got on to your mother. What is her deal? She is an artist. I need her up there. Well, she likes to sit at home and look out the window. And I'm like, she needs to be around people. So this is one of those that I want to go sit with her and say, hey, just come for the day. I'll come pick you up. They all want different experiences. They all want different activities. They all have different wants and needs. If you're 60 and I'm vastly approaching, you want a definitely different need than you do if you're 90. That's a big gap. In closing, I want to say thank you for any consideration you can give me. I know y'all are ready to get the heck out of me, and you did not save the best for last. I had to change the appointment because of the Zoom call. I feel like I'm not asking for a whole lot when you add the numbers up because of the grant funding. I just want the staff to be treated equally. It's difficult, I know, to make fair and equitable changes on staff salaries. I have 8 more years to go because I have to work until I reach Medicare because we can't take our insurance with us unless something goes wrong before then. I've watched so many come and go over the years. Oh my goodness. I have realized that I was gone for a short time, but I've worked for every county manager that we ever had. The first one, went from a sole commissioner to what we have now. And I realized during that time, I still worked for every county manager that has stepped in the door. And so has James Saubert, as well as some of our police and firemen, I'm sure. And Chairman Thurman did as well. If he didn't work with him, he hired him. So a lot of changes. It is going to be hard to see Taubert retire because I don't have nobody to argue with in a department head meeting. But it's sad when you see the ones that you've worked with go, but I'm happy for him and I want to see his health get better. But I thank you. I thank you for what you do. And just any consideration, please reach out to me. Yeah, through email, text, or phone call if you have any questions.
Questions for Dawn? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was lengthy. Last,
All
try
right.
not to be that way again.
All right. With that, that's our last appointment for today. We are adjourned.